Hey guys, want to welcome you to another edition of Halftime Chat. Um, Back to the old must be the music, and this evening with a special guest. As I say, all my guests are special, and we've got um, producer, music executive Tim Kelley. He was part of the dynamic duo of Tim and Bob, who were responsible for some big hits back in the 90s and the early 2000s, from Cisco to Jon B to Case, Dave Hollister, Bobby Valentino. Bobby Brown. They just produce hit after hit. Tamia, and so it'll be interesting to talk to Tim to hear about his background, his story, and his journey, and we'll just go through that journey. Um, so we're going to interview Tim.
Got you, man. How you doing, man? You all right?
I'm doing good. It is almost half
Hey,
past midnight, but
hey,
hey.
you know what's crazy, man? How about, man, you the first one I talked to since I had a stroke. I had a stroke about like 7 months, man, and I
Are
couldn't
you,
talk. It was like I had some tape over my mouth. It was weird.
wow.
But yeah, so now I'm able to talk and everything and make sense now, man. But at first you would have been like, huh? Say it again?
Wow. Is it was it stress over work or what did they say?
Um, I got my dad before he passed away, he had like 4 to 6 strokes. So
Wow.
what happened was they said I had an 80% chance that it was going to happen to me. So what they found out is I got a little cholesterol buildup in one of the a weird vein that's in my brain. So it's a 50% clog up. So what they said, they was going to give me some medicine, and it just stopped it, man. You know what I mean? So I was able to stop it. You know what I mean? I'm all good now. But what made me
Wow.
come back is, my wife, man. I got to give it up to my wife. She's basically like a health freak, man. So she got me back to talking again pretty good. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So between
Yeah.
every day and then how she cooked for me and all that stuff, it just brought me back. You know what I mean? So I'm able to talk to you, man.
Wow. Well, I didn't realize that. Wow. And so how would you prevent it from happening again? What have they said?
Uh, I'm just on medicine right now. So what I'm gonna do is, so I've been taking medicine to slow it down, and then I'm gonna go to rehab too, so I can go ahead and finish. Cause believe it or not, man, I don't know how I look on right now on my phone, but I can't even use my left arm right now.
Wow.
It might look like I can, but I can't. I mean,
Yeah.
I can bring it up, like I mean, I can bring it up, but like
Yeah.
like this right here, I can't do that. I only can like bring it up, and that's it.
Wow.
So I'm still doing tracks, man, with my right hand. Like I got Rick Ross coming up. I got a whole bunch of people, man. So, man, this is gonna be one of your favorite interviews, man. I got a lot of stuff to talk about. You know what? You can ask me the same questions that Bob, or you can ask me something different because I got a whole nother route than what Bob doing, man. You know what I mean?
Okay. I mean, as we start off, because I didn't specifically add in my guess, I don't specifically have questions, but it's more like just tracking your journey. Then in the midst of that, stuff comes out. But where were you born and raised, Tim?
Same thing, man. I was born in Peoria, Illinois, and then I followed my dad's band, man. So they just did local gigs like in Chicago, and they went far as like down south, like St. Louis maybe. But I had a different journey than Bob did. Bob grew up in church. I
Yeah.
went to church because I lived across the church. So my that's why my dad made me go to church, man. But nah, I had a different journey, man. I was funk. I had to learn about funk, man. My dad taught me about funk, man. Like Isley Brothers, Tower Power, Earth, Wind and Fire. They was like an Earth, Wind and Fire band, man. Two
Wow.
guitar players, two bass players, like whole horn section. It was crazy, man. Like for
Wow.
real, if they could have made it, man, but they was just scared to journey out. So I just took, you know what I mean, what I saw, and I said, you know what? I want to be a producer, man. So
Yeah, why a
eventually I met,
producer?
huh?
I mean, how, well, most people won't think about producers. I mean, I think since the 90s, most people would. the producers became more prominent. But I mean, back then, Quincy Jones even wasn't someone that we would think about. So why would you think about being a producer?
I think because when they because they practiced in my basement, right? So I
Yeah.
would get on a drums, get on the bass because they used to leave their stuff for the next day. So I
Okay.
used to leave the guitar there, you know what I mean, the bass there, the drums. And the first thing I start messing around with was drums, man, when I was like 5 years old. Then it went to the bass, then it went to the guitar. So, I ended up playing like what? I don't know, like 10 instruments before I was 8.
Wow.
So my dad played the trumpet, right? So he came on and he heard me playing his trumpet. He was like, "What you doing?" And I was like, "I mean, I'm playing." He was like, "How?" So I was playing to one of Herb Alpert songs. He was like, "How do you know how to play that? And you don't even know what you're playing, man." I'm like, "I don't know. I guess it's by ear." He was like, "You know what, man? I'm gonna put you in school, man, because I can't have no son, man. I ain't gonna have no son like knowing how to play by ear and don't know what he played." So he put me in school, man, and all that. Now I was the youngest one in school, man. I was the youngest one that knew how to play all these instruments, but I didn't know what key I was in. I didn't know
Okay.
none of that stuff, man. My dad, I'm glad that he got me in, man. So, I was able to. But then at first I was producing by myself, you know what I mean, for a long time. And I met this guy, his name was Gerald. So I was working with him before I even knew Bob. So he taught me how to record. So I started doing stuff on my own, right? And then I eventually met Bob, and then he told me about different things about commission and all that stuff. And then well, I'll take that back. You know what? We had a friend together. His name was Kenny. So every time we drove somewhere, he'd be like, "Hey man, can I show you something?" And I'd be like, "All right." So he used to put commission in all the time. And I'd be like, you sure it's not an R&B group?" And he was like, "Nah, man." He was like, "Man, it's a Christian group, man." So he started showing me records, and then he was like, "Hey, man, I want to introduce you to somebody, man, because everybody say you look like him." And it was they was like, between you and this guy right here, that's who everybody be talking about in Peoria, who's the best in Peoria at playing and all that. So
Okay.
we was at the mall one time. So he was like, "Hey, remember that I was telling you about that guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "There he is right there." So Bob was downstairs and we went downstairs. And then that's when me and Bob met, man. And I told Bob to come to the crib. He came the week after that. And we was like linked like this ever since, man. You know what I mean?
So what was your instrument of choice that you kind of, your main one that if you had to pick one back in those days for you?
Back in the day, I would say the drums and the bass. You know what I'm saying? I got really interested in like how how does a groove hold up? You know what I mean? And I noticed that like the Isley Brothers, Tower Power, Earth and Fire, they always had funky bass lines and stuff like that. The Barcades, all that stuff. They had funky bass lines, and then like the breaks, the drum breaks always came from like either the Barcades or like, you know what I mean, stuff like that. So I just learned at an early age is the drums and the bass, man. So I just gravitated to that, and then I just started learning everything else as I went. But this was my first two instruments, man: drums and bass.
Was singing ever a part of something that you did, or?
It's sort of like what Bob said. You know what I mean? It's like once I start seeing my dad. Well, I'll take that back. When I saw my dad singing and all that, I was like, maybe I should start singing. You know what I mean? But that was something that never grabbed me, man. You know what I mean? Until me and Bob started producing. And then we learned that once we started doing backgrounds, it sounded good. And we was like, wow, that sound pretty good, man. You know what I mean? Like together, man, let's go ahead, So what we would do is like if we couldn't get the artist to sound real good, we would do all the backgrounds and then we put the artist on top of us and we would turn us down.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, but before we
It's a
get,
lot of
yeah,
man,
no,
I can name a lot of them we did that for, man. We
yeah.
did all the backgrounds to so many people, man. Isley Brothers, Isley Brothers. Let me see. Case. Uh, Not that they didn't know how to sing. It's just that when we did I did the music, we already knew how we wanted to sound. You know what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
backgrounds to sound.
Yeah, but
So we
that,
would hurry
yeah.
up and just do it real quick, and then just throw them on there and see if they liked it. So if they liked it, they kept it. If not, we started over. You know what I mean?
And that's not this too dissimilar to what Babyface or Teddy Riley would do, because you could always hear Face background of any song he produces, or Teddy, you could always hear his sort of little background. So I guess it's, and I think I was listening to, and I'll go later on to talk about Bobby's Forever album, and I could hear the same backgrounds that are on Forever and other tracks that seem similar to some that you've done on other things. Was that you
Right.
guys on the background on Forever?
Let me see. I think that was Boo Boo on that, man. Derek Colbriff that used to be in Dallas's group, Highland Place Monsters.
Okay.
Remember Highland Place
Yeah,
Monsters? Remember
yeah,
that
yeah,
group?
yeah.
So we always used to use Boo Boo, man. He was when I tell you, man, he's an Atlanta legend, man. I mean, even Babyface was like, that's my favorite singer, man. So we used him for everything, man. I don't care
Oh,
what it was, man.
okay.
He would be on the other side of town, man. We would call him and be like, hey, Boo Boo, where you at, man? He'd be like, I'm on the other side of town, man. We like, hey, man, we need you, man. And we ain't gonna start until you get in the studio. That's how bad that, you know what I mean? Because we got used to his sound on our
Yeah.
records, man.
Yeah, that's the thing, because you guys had you had what about with John B? They don't know. Did you was that because he was telling me that he was stacking his vocal, you guys stacked his vocals to do the chorus for They Don't Know.
Yeah, that was John by himself. We just kept stacking them and it turned into him, man. At first we was thinking about it. We was like, okay, if need be, we'll do it. But he's so good, man. We didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
He's really, really he know his craft really well, man. So we didn't even have to even do that with him, man. He just I don't know, man. He just knew what he was doing, man. So we would throw a note at him, and then he just, you know what I mean? We'd be like, hey, try this, man. He just stack it all up, man. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
some artists know how to do it. A lot of people don't, man. It's an art to that, man. It really is.
Mm.
It's an art to stacking that up.
But
Hey,
just
another thing I want to tell you, man,
yeah.
is I know you said it was 12 o'clock in the morning there. I want to thank you, man, for staying up late with me, man, because it's earlier here. You know what I mean? I know you can see the daylight over there,
Yeah,
so
I
that
know.
lets you know how early it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
know.
thanks a
Yeah.
lot, man.
No, not a
Thanks a
problem.
lot for that.
Yeah, so but let's go back to the fact that you met up with they introduced you to Bob, and I wonder, did you ever think about going on your own, or what was it about when you guys met up that you thought actually we could work better as a team?
You know what's so crazy? I did go on my own for a minute. So I tried to make it in New Orleans. I tried to make it in Chicago. I did was on my own, and I was with like Gerald was in the midst, man. He was a good friend of mine, and he knew a lot about recording. He the one that taught me how to record. But then for some reason, when I met Bob, um, he was the only one out of all the people that I knew that wasn't scared to be like jump on a plane or jump in the car and be like, "Hey, let's go. Hey, is that where we got to go to make it? Let's go over there." You know what I mean? Because I was really one of the ones who was like, "Hey, man, you know what? If we want to make it, man, we got to go over there. Do you want to go, or you want to stay here and we just find some other jobs?" Bob
Mm.
was the only one be like, "Let's get in the car. Let's get in the airplane. Let's go." So you know what I mean? And then another thing too is that I started playing in church with Bob, and
Mm.
so we got really really close, man. So I mean, man, like when we met, man, seriously, when he met, I asked my dad, I'm like, Dad, can Bob stay in a basement? He was like, I don't know, man. A grown man staying in a basement, man. I'm like, come on, man. I was like, I'll get another job, man, so I can, help pay for his bills. He was like, yeah, all right, let's try it for a month and let's see. You know what I mean? So while he heard what me and Bob was coming up with, he was like, whoa. So he just left us alone, man. He just let Bob stay a month, 2 months, 3 months. Cause Bob was saying that his dad had a gig in New York. So Bob was like, I want to just stay in so we could just, get a catalog. So when we do make it, we got some music to show some people. You know what I mean? So that's how that happened.
But at that time, who were you guys looking at as role models, as producers?
You know what, man? I'm not trying to say it was all me, man. I'm not trying to do that at all. But it's just that we just had different backgrounds. Okay, so I used to collect albums because my uncle was a DJ in Milwaukee, right? So he used to always send us like what's the latest thing that's going to come out in another month or two. So I always knew. I kept seeing who's Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, man. Who's Gamble and Huff? Who's Elliot Babyface? You know what I mean? So I always had the album. So when I met Bob, I was the one that was telling Bob about these guys, man. And Bob was like, who are they? Who are these guys, man? I'm like, you know what? They made this. Human League, Sherelle, Alexander O'Neal, all that. So he didn't really know these guys, man. Isley Brothers, all that, because he had a different way he came up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he didn't really know who they were. So once I start telling them who they were, I'm like, it's only two dudes that's doing all the stuff, man. You know what I mean? So once that happened, man, we start honing in on our craft. And I don't know, man. We just got good enough, just as good as anybody. So I was like, we need to go ahead and just try it, man. Let's just try and just get out there and see what happens, man. You know what I mean?
But did you know anyone that had made it in the industry that you could see them make it and say, we could just follow that path? Or did it seem...
You know what? Nobody. We only knew it from maybe some magazines that my sister used to collect. That's all we knew, man.
Yeah, and in the Midwest,
but where we come from, man, nobody made it, man.
Yeah, in the Midwest.
Matter of fact, man, we got a key in a street named after us, man.
Wow.
We got a day named after us in Peoria.
Wow.
Yeah, but we was mostly like, we mostly was like either in Chicago or like in St. Louis, because we was trying to make it because those cities was bigger. So we like, all right, at least some people came out of Chicago. At least somebody came out of St. Louis too.
Yeah.
So we was like, all right, if we have to sleep in the car, just sleep in the car, man. That's how bad I want to make it.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So
what was the idea about going to Detroit then? What was the hope? Because Motown was no longer there.
You know what it was? It's like I think Bob kind of touched on it a little bit. What happened is Bob got a gig in Detroit, right? And so he called me up one day and he was like, hey man, you know where I'm at? And I'm like, where you at? Now this is when he left, and I thought that we weren't even gonna see each other no more. Cause he started doing other endeavors and stuff like that. Start playing for his dad's church and all this stuff. So I was like, that's it, I'm gonna be back on my own. You know what I mean? So I kind of had that mindset. But Bob hit me up. He was like, hey man, I'm in Detroit and I showed these two people that's trying to start a production company. I showed them some of my songs and I showed them some of your songs that you got, man. And they was like, you know what? We could really help them out. So Bob told me, and I was like, you know me, you know me. I was like, hey, tell them to give me a ticket. I'll be there, man. So they got a ticket, man. That night, man, it's crazy, man. Like, I think that night I got a ticket. During the day, I talked to Bob, and then I got a ticket that night. Wow. I jumped on a plane, I left my keyboards, everything. Only thing I took was my drum machine. And I broke out. I was gone. Had one thing of clothes, maybe one or two change of clothes, man, you know what I mean? And then my drum machine, man. I just broke out. Met Bob at the airport. Bob picked me up at the airport. You know what I mean? And then we went from there. It's crazy. Well, I think about it, man. Like, I'm like, man, what was we thinking about? But that's how bad we want to make it, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we knew that we was as good as anybody. We just needed the shot. You know what I mean? So, you know, it was crazy. When we went to the studio, they happened to have an SSL there. So this guy named Mike Powell, he was the one that owned the studio. It was on Puritan, right? Here's what, okay, you know what? Here's what was crazy about this. Detroit was so crazy, man. Do you know that they had a point, like when we used to turn and go, when we had the park at, they had a guy standing right there. And then another, when we had to turn, it was another guy. So we was like, hey, man, ain't nowhere to park, man. I was like, you know what? Hold on, man. Let me go talk. I don't know. I don't know what gave me the bravery to do this, man. But I was like, hey, yo, I said, hey, man, I know y'all strip, because it was a big backyard, right? So they used to strip cars and all that stuff back there. I was like, hey, man, you know what? I see what y'all do, man. And you know what? We just two dudes that's just trying to do music, man. It's a studio right here. When we come around, it's a studio that lit us in the base, in the garage. Hear nothing, see nothing, man. We just do music, man. And so then he was like, you know what, man? You all right with me. And then so every night he just lit us through, man. You know what I mean?
But if
So
you
they be
didn't do that,
stripping
what would they
cars.
have done? Would they have just stolen your car?
Yeah, probably. You know what I mean? They probably would have stole our car, man, because they were stripping cars like crazy every night, man.
Wow.
And you know, where we come from, man, we didn't see that, man. You know what I mean? We didn't know how big city living was, man. Like, but big city living is like stealing a car and stripping it up wherever they can. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So they was just stripping cars every night, man. So after I talked to the guy, he was like, y'all know what? He said, you know what? Y'all all right with me, man. He said, come on in, man. So every night, it's funny, man. So he'd be sitting there and he see us, he'd be like, because he already know that, you know, we wasn't even trying to tell on them or nothing, man.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
they was doing, they was doing. We just want to do music.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but to get back to what I was talking about, what Mike did is he said, you know what? This is an SSL, and this is what everybody record on, man. And he threw the book at me, right? The book was, I wish I could use my left arm, but the book was so thick, man. I'm like, how the heck I'm gonna learn about this, man? You know what I'm saying? From a 8-tracker to this, you know what I mean? So
Wow.
um I learned I every night, every day I just studied the book, man. And then he would take me over to some classes because he put me in engineering class. So what happened is I start honing on not only how me and Bob would do music, but I started learning about sound, about like, you know what? You can have a style by your sound. You know what I mean? Like how you EQ the stuff. So I started learning about little things, man. Like, you know, the language they speak, that engineers speak, like 5K here, gate and compression and all that stuff. Like I knew it without knowing. That's why he took me, you know, gave me a few classes and stuff like that. And I ended up going to these classes, and I accelerated so fast, man, because I really, really wanted to know that board, man, because it was like a spaceship at first. When I first saw it, I'm
With all
like,
the
what?
buttons and stuff like that.
Exactly, man. I wanted to know what every button was. But really, it's all really just a strip. So, like, it's a strip, but just like a whole bunch of channels, you know what I mean? So, you're looking at 30 channels, but if you just hone in and learn one strip, you learn that one strip is the same thing all the way down, you know what I mean? And
But
even at the top, like the compression and the gates and stuff like that,
mm,
it's just all the way down. Just look like it's a lot of buttons you need to know, but it's the same thing on one channel.
I
So
thought that
that's how I
was
learned it. You know what
I
I mean?
thought
I'm
that was
like,
what the engineer does. I thought, the engineer was the one responsible for the sound, but you thought about learning it so at least you could what engineer and make your own records, or what was the incentive of after learning how to use the SSL board?
I don't know, man. I just, you know, man, I was just one of them people, man, that, man, ever since I've been little, if I just wanted to know, like, if I start doing something, I want to know it inside out. I really want to know what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I guess the SSL was one of them things. It's like once I learned it, I want to learn it like the back of my hand, man. And believe it or not, you know what? I mixed most of all our records, man. I just put everybody. A lot of engineers, man, will come to me and be like, "Thank you, Tim, man," because you know what I used to do? I used to mix it, but I didn't put my name on it. Sometimes I did, and sometimes I didn't. I used to just give like, assistant engineers and all that credit because I didn't want to be known as an engineer. I want to be known as a producer. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So that's why I never did put my name on it. But then when I turned it in, every time I turned it in, let's just say like Gerald Busby, he'll be
Mm.
like, "You mixed this, didn't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I did." So then you know what? He changed everything and put my name on it when I didn't even want to take the credit.
Okay.
He did.
I guess I think, because I think those of us who are music fans, and when we started buying CDs, we started to see, like Teddy had John Marie Herbert, or you have
Exactly.
Serban,
Yeah.
even or Teddy would mix an engineer, and or Dave Way, and we could relate, like, oh yeah, Dave Way, when he does the engineering and mixing, we can hear the snares and how it sounds, or when Teddy does it. So I
Right.
guess for some of us, I guess knowing who's engineering and mixing, kind of made a sense because we could hear a pattern. So I guess that's probably some of the things that you probably wouldn't have thought about at that point in time.
You know what? To add to that, man, is that's what we learned from, man. We learned from Teddy, man. Like we was like, how is Dave? I mean, not no disrespect to Dave Way because we worked with Dave Way on So Into You. You know what I mean? I mixed it first, and then the company just wanted to get a big name behind it, so they had him remix. They had him redo my mix, which all he did was like took my mix and was like, you know what I mean? So he was dialing in on what I'd already did already. So it just sounded just like what I did. So that's how I know. I was like, you know what? Teddy was doing all the mixes. He was giving Dave Way and these guys credit, man. Maybe they helped him out, but
Mm.
at the end, it was Teddy saying, turn this up, turn this down, and all that stuff. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
learned that because all of it sound the same. I'm
yeah,
like, how all these dudes know, man, that how they know, man, to make his music sound the same way every time. I'm like, he got to be telling them, man. So
yeah,
then when we ended up getting really, really cool with Teddy. He started telling us, he was like, "Oh no, man, I mixed that, man. I touched that." So
yeah,
I was like, "Oh, you know what? So you know what? I'm gonna do the same thing. If I mix something, I'm just gonna give it to the assistant engineer, the guy to go run and get the hamburgers for you and all that. You know what I mean? I just started giving them credit, man, because that helped them get out to, being a real engineer. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I
It
think,
really helped them out.
yeah. I interviewed John Marie Hovat, and he says, look, Teddy could do everything, yeah, engineer and
Yeah,
mix, but we just had too much stuff. So,
right.
we just had so much stuff. So you definitely needed other people to pick up. But he did it all by himself. That but he didn't need us. But we just no, actually, it was Rodney Jerkins, Darkchild, that I interviewed. He says he just had too much stuff, but he could have done everything himself. Uh, at
You know
Detroit,
what? Rodney's
yeah.
another one, man.
Mhm.
I got to give it up, man. You know, it was a little different back then, man, when we started, man. It's like we really cared about our sound. You know what I mean? It's like when you heard a Rodney track, you knew it was Rodney because of how it
Mhm.
sounded.
Yeah,
When you heard a Devontae track, you knew it
yeah,
was Devontae because of how it sounded. When you heard a Teddy track, when you heard a Dallas track, Tim and Bob track, Babyface, you know what I'm saying? It's like we really cared about sound back then, man. It was like we knew that your sound was gonna carry you into who you go, who you were gonna be. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And people was gonna identify you. They was gonna identify you with your sound.
yeah,
So back then you had, we didn't have like Pro Tools and all the stuff, Ableton and Logic that comes with sounds already. We had to make our sounds, man. We had to go get the album, get the break beat or whatever it was, and we had to chop it all up and EQ it and all that by ourselves. You know what I mean? It
Is
was
that to avoid
crazy.
sampling and stuff like that?
Yeah, we had to do the sampling, man. It was like instead of like, you know what I mean, this stuff right now these days that comes with the sounds. That's
Yeah,
why you can't really tell right now these days who do what because it
yeah,
all sounds the same.
yeah, yeah,
Back then it was like an MPC, and then you had to really know how to sample it. Either you were sampling it hot, you were sampling not as hot, whatever it would be, man. But you would know who did it when you heard it. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. No, that's true. I think we could identify. I could always hear an LA and Babyface track once it starts because you can hear LA's drums, baby faces, sort of harmonies, but also his and even with Darryl Simmons, you could hear. Sometimes you can hear Jimmy and Terry, and then you can always hear Teddy.
Right.
But in Detroit, then what was the? How long were you guys in Detroit before you decided to move on to Atlanta and sort of take the job
Let's
offer with
see.
Dallas?
Off and on, man. Let me see. I will give it about like 2 or 3 years, and then it only took me a year to learn the SSL. So we was ready in a year, man. So we was kind of talking about it, but we didn't really put no energy to it until Randy Rand passed away. Man, Randy Rand passed away. He was in this group, and then a guy that took his place. His name is Paul Hill. He told us, he said, "Hey, man, you know what?" He was like, "Man, y'all know Randy Rand." So I don't think Bob kind of knew him, but I did because I remember looking on the back of Jam and Lewis and stuff, and I used to always see his name. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
I already knew who he was. So I was like, "Yeah, I know him." And he was like, "Hey, man, he had a head-on motorcycle accident, and him and Dallas was just getting started. Like, man, I don't know if you remember a song called "Taking My Time" from After Seven.
Yes.
If you heard of that,
Yeah.
don't mind kicking it with you, all that stuff. Him and
Yeah.
Dallas did that together, man. Like they was
Oh,
produced, they was gonna be a producing team because
okay.
He left Jam and Lewis and came to Atlanta to work with Dallas. You know what I mean? But what happened was is that when he had that accident, Paul Hill took his place, and he started telling us the story and all that. He was like, "Hey, man, Dallas is really looking for some people, man. Y'all should go ahead and go down there, man." I'm like, "You know what? Could you help us with our demos?" He was like, "Yeah." So, every time we would write the song, Paul would do the demo. You know what I mean? It was
Oh, this.
Paul and Dietrich doing all our demos for us, man. So we start stacking everything up. So we ended up having Dietrich on some, and then Paul on some, and then we had this other guy that we recorded. So when we start playing the songs for Dallas, we had some dudes on there that really, really knew how to sing. You know what I mean?
Okay. Okay. So
So
it made
that's
it
what captured him. That not only do y'all know how to do tracks,
the
who's
vocal
his
production.
vocalist and who's doing the vocals. You know what I mean? So that really got his attention too, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Before you left it, because I just spoke with Tony. So how did you guys meet, Tony Rich?
Tony, it's crazy, man. Tony, I remember, man, I'm gonna tell you, Tony got this song called he got this song right. If it came out right now, it'll go number one, man. It's a song that come on, man. It make you want. You could be in the happiest. I'm not even joking when I say this, man. You can be in the happiest moment of your life when you hear this song. By the end of the song, you crying, dude,
Wow.
for sure, man.
Wow.
Only for a while was the name of it. I'll be asking him every time I talk to him. I'm like, "Hey, man, do you got your version?" He sounds just like Babyface on this record, man. It was unbelievable how he tapped into Babyface, and he really sounded like Babyface. It's crazy, man. But anyway, him and his brother came over to the studio where we was working at, and they was doing demos. And so then Tony was like, "Hey, man, do y'all know what an MPC is?" And we was like, "MPC? What's an MPC?" Because I had a rolling drum machine, so I didn't even
Oh,
know what that is. So he was the first one that introduced me to an MPC. Once he introduced me to an MPC, man, I was like, man, when I tell you, man, I was obsessed with it. I was obsessed, man, because you can make your own sounds. With a
mm,
rolling, it came with the sound. So you
Okay.
had to manipulate the sounds on the board if you wanted to make them sound different. You know what I mean? An
Mm.
MPC, you can actually, you know, you can actually like manipulate sounds through there. They have filters in there. They automatically have filters. You can sample whatever you want to sample. It gave you plenty of time. It wasn't like an SB 1200 where it's like 9 seconds and there's a snare, 5 seconds and here's a kick. I mean, it gave you like, I don't know, like maybe a minute to do something, minute or
Wow.
2 minutes. So
Wow.
we just fell in love with it, man. And then he said, you know what? He said, hey, man, John Sally just signed me, man. Y'all want to come over to the studio? And we was like, yeah. He took us over to John Sally studio, man. And we was like, what the heck? I think John had about like 5 rooms with an SSL in it, man.
Wow.
I lost my mind because
NBA
I was a
play.
tech dude back. Because I was a techie guy back then.
Yeah.
So I was just like, wow, this is unbelievable, man. And then after that, Mario came in there, and he came in with the same MPC that Tony had, right? So I was like, so I kept telling them the girl that signed us, right? I said, hey, you know what? If you want to get the new modern day sound, we need an MPC. She was like, what's that? I said, it's from Akai. I said, just look up Akai, and then you'll see. And then the next week she came in with it, man. And I was like, what the heck? She ended up buying us one. So now I was able to trade sounds with Tony. So I traded sounds with Tony. And then when Mario came in. So Mario was doing gospel music
Okay.
and we started trading sounds. So when I said, you know what? We all made a pact. We was like, whoever make it, man, big, pull the next dude in, man. Whoever, I don't know where we gonna end up at. You know what I mean? I don't know where y'all gonna end up at, but we all gonna be cool. Me, Mario, you see,
Tony.
me, Mario, Tony, Dietrich Haddon, Carl Thomas. So me and Bob
Oh,
made it
Carl
first.
Thomas as well?
Yep. We went to the same church when we moved to Chicago. So that's how we knew him.
Oh, wow.
So when we got to Atlanta, you know who's the first. This is gonna really trip you out, man. But this is the truth right here. You can ask Bob about this, man. You know who? Okay, Paul kept sending us demos, right? And how about, man? He kept sending us Dilla's. If he was sending us Dilla's demos, but they were saying James Yancey, right? So we didn't know who that was. We thought it was just a dude he met and just was sending us demos. But it was really Dilla, right? So
Wow.
he's sending us these demos, man, and we like, who is this dude, man? Cause the beats was crazy, man. We was like, hey, Paul, who was this guy right here, man? He was like, I'm telling you, man. He didn't really go deep into it. He thought that we'd already hear it, which I did. You know what I mean? I'm like, you know what? Just give us a minute, man. We don't got our 2 feet all the way in. You know what I mean? To sign people or get people signed.
Oh,
Just give me a minute.
okay.
So,
Oh,
so what happened was we already knew that we didn't know what equipment he used. You know what I mean? But I knew what Tony used and I knew what Mario used. So the first person I called was Tony. I told Dallas about Tony. I told him he sounds just like Babyface, man. He was like, you know what? If he sound like, he said, get him on the phone, man. So I said, hey Tony, man. Don't even say that. I said, play just for a little while, man. By the end of the song, man, Dallas' eyes was almost all puffy, crying and everything. The same thing. He was like, hey man, come on down, man. So what happened is we had Tony come down, and then Dallas kind of changed his mind because he had a couple other guys he was looking at. So then
oh,
when we went up to meet Pebbles, Pebbles wanted to sign me and Bob, but we was like, you know what? We already signed the Dallas, but we got another dude, man. You should check him out. So then that's when we told him about Tony, and then they made Tony an in-house producer at LaFace, and then he was doing stuff for Pebbles and all that,
okay.
and that's when he won that Grammy and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
No,
with it,
what nobody knows it. That's
yeah,
that.
nobody, yeah, nobody knows. Yeah, but think about it. Um, how tough was it for you guys in Detroit then? Because I know Bob mentioned about it was, very little to eat, but having trying to be positive about, when we making stuff. But how hard was that though to be able to do that? To think your dream is fading away because it's, you're working it and you're not seeing the big stuff.
You know what, man? It's because I think it's because we were so rooted in church, man, that we learned what faith was about. You know what I mean?
Mm.
We learned that faith is you know what I mean. Faith is the substance of things hoped for
Yeah.
and things not seen. So we knew that we wasn't gonna be able to see it at first. We just had to have the faith in us
Wow.
and know that God's word that if we keep working hard, he's
Mm.
gonna see us and he's gonna bless us, he's gonna deliver us, man. You know what I
Wow.
mean? So we just kept on we just kept saying that, man. And I remember, man, I think Bob kind of brushed on it a little bit, but I remember Burger King had like two burgers for $2 or something like that.
Okay.
And it was right down the street. So we would walk down the street and get the two burgers. It was funny, man.
Yeah.
That's what we lived off on. But my mom used to call me up and be like, "Hey, baby, you all right?" She didn't even know, man, that I just had burgers for about like 3 weeks, man. You know what I mean? I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm all right." She was like, that's a big city, man. You know what I mean? Are y'all, you sure y'all okay? It's a big city. And that's like, and back then, I was when like Detroit was the murder capital of the world, man.
Whoa.
It really was. They were snatching out people, man, downtown in the daylight. You know what I mean? We were seeing that on the news, man. Like people getting snatched out of their car in the daylight and they still in their cars. So it was that crazy, man. But we was like, you know what? I see that, but these are where all the cats is in Detroit. You know what I mean? Everybody that knew how to play,
Yeah.
you can go on any corner and you would hear somebody, man. If you go in a church, you'll hear anybody that be like, they can make it right there. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I don't know. That's how it was, man. We was just like, you know what? We just gotta walk by faith, man, and just and know that we're good enough to make it, man. We can't throw in the towel right now. We too close, man. You know what I mean? That
Wow.
and we kept saying that. And we was uplifting each other too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like when I was down one day, Bob would be like, "Hey man, Tim, you so dope, man. You too close, man." So Bob had he had a gig with Aretha Franklin's grandfather. So Bob used to always go over there, right? So he go over there during the day, and he would drop me off at the studio before he go over there to the church, right? So all day, all I did, man, was keep messing with the board, man. And then after a while, Bob was like, "How'd you get that good?" Man, I'm like, I just kept looking at the manual and all the stuff when I went to engineering classes, man. I just learned real fast. That's one thing I learned, man. I just learned it real fast because that's all I thought about. We
Yeah.
gotta have a sound. You know what I'm saying? I was like, that's the only way we're gonna make it. So
Yeah.
little things like that, you know what I mean? That got us to like believe in ourselves. One day he'll be down. I'll be like, "Bob, you know what, man? You're one of the best organist players and keyboard players that I know, man." And there was some cats, and when I tell you it was some dudes in Detroit that was so dope, man, we was just as good though. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
had to remind Bob, I'm like, "Hey man, we just as good as anybody, man. All we need is somebody to believe in us and trust us, man. We'll be all right." And then the next day I'll be kind of down. He would ask me like, "You good, man?" I'd be like, "Yeah." Inside, I really want to be like, I want to go home, man. You know what I'm saying? But then Bob would be like, "Hey man, Tim, man, you know what? You didn't learn all this stuff just to learn it, man. Like, you know what? You really, really good at what you do, man.
Mm.
Come on, man. Let's see this through. Let's see what the end result was gonna be. You know what I mean?" So we would
Yeah.
uplift people. We would uplift each other rather, and some of our friends used to come in too, and they used to uplift us too. Like they used to come in from Peoria and from Chicago and all that stuff, and they'd be like, "Hey man, how'd y'all get this good, man? Y'all was only like playing in church. Now y'all producing, man. How'd y'all get this good?" I'm like, "Hey, just from just messing around, you know what I mean?" And then all of a sudden, man, we started. I mean, I told Bob, I was like, because Bob was always already writing church songs when I met him, and I was already writing from from a perspective of like the Isley Brothers and all that stuff from my dad. So we just put that together. So we put, and then where we come from, all we heard was pop music. So we
Uh,
took pop music, and then we took like what my dad and them, like Earth, Wind and Fire, like
yeah.
you already know what they did, man. Love's Holiday, all that stuff, man. If you listen to that all day, man, you would get the melodies, man. You would, you know what I'm saying? So I
Okay.
was writing from that perspective, that pop and R&B, and Bob was writing
From
from
the church.
gospel and pop. So we mixed all that together, you know what I mean? And that's how we came with our sound, you know what I mean? We just
Yeah.
we just came over without even thinking about it. We just did it. It was weird, man. It was one of the weirdest things, man.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we most people can acknowledge is the fact that you guys were really good at making um ballads that um show the vulnerability of men. So whether it's a
Yeah.
Case or Dave Hollister, Jon B or Boyz II Men or 112, it's the fact that you could write from a perspective where a man can feel comfortable being vulnerable and singing. Um, how, from your point of view, where
And
do
you
you
know
think
what?
that came from? Yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
man.
I was gonna say, where do you think
Go
that
ahead.
came from? But go
You
ahead.
know how you know I was gonna tell you, man. You know where that came from, man? That came from church, man, because it's like that church music, man, because them slow ballads and all that stuff, man, make you get happy for no reason, man. You know. And I
Yeah.
was like, what are they saying? Or you know what it is? And you know what? It wasn't necessarily what they were saying, it was the melody, man.
Mm.
And when we met Jam and Lewis, they was like, hey man, you know what's funny, man? Bob don't remember it quite well, but what happened was I remember we went with Boyz II Men to it was the American Bandstand. We went there because they was up for like 4 or 5 awards or
Oh,
something
the
like that.
American Music
And they
Awards. Yeah.
sw- and they swept the awards, man. We
Okay,
like
yeah.
we like beat everybody that night. So we was leaving for like with like 5 awards, man. So I remember I was sitting next to Wanye, and Wanye was like, "Hey Tim," he was bumping me, man. He's like, "Hey Tim, Jam and Lewis is down there, man. Look." So I'm looking down there. I'm like, "What?" I said, "Man, y'all got to introduce," because you know they did on Bend the Knee and one other song they did on
One
the
of my
album.
favorite songs, yeah.
Yeah. So me and Bob had did like 5 or 6. So I thought they might know who we are, but I'm like, maybe they don't. You know what I mean? I was like, hey man, you know what? You got to introduce me. He was like, he said, no, he said, y'all meet him, man. Hold on, man. So we sat there through the whole thing. After that, it was an after party. And they threw the after party for Boyz II Men, right? So what happened was it was a back way to the after party, right? So we seen Terry right there. So I was looking and I saw the back because you
Oh, the
know they
hat.
always wore these hats, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, is that Terry right there? I'm like, so I wanted to say something so bad to him, man, but I didn't, right? So here we go. We went on up the, went up the steps. We went the back way, like everybody else did. And
Yeah.
we was just sitting in the corner, right? And we was just like, God, I can't believe, man. It was Jimmy and Terry right there. Jimmy, Terry, and Jimmy's wife. And they was eating together. They all was eating something together because they had some food too. And then all of a sudden, Brandy came in, man, right? And Brandy was like, "Hey, how y'all doing?" Whatever. So we was talking to her. We was like, "Hey, Brandy, do you know we never met Jam and Lewis?" She said, "Y'all never met Jam and Lewis?" She said, "How do y'all sound just like them?" I'm like, I said, "It was from, man, me knowing every song that they ever done, man." I'm like, I knew from the first at the beginning from Dynasty. I don't know if you know a song from Dynasty called Only One. That they did that, and then Captain Rock, they did that. I mean, I
Yeah.
know all this stuff, man. I mean, I was an encyclopedia for either LM Babyface or Jam Lewis. I knew all their stuff, man. I even knew the hidden stuff, man. Like I would have to tell Bob because it was so hidden
Wow.
that Bob even be like, dang, how do you know this? I'm like, I'll just pick up records every Tuesday. That's what it was in our family, man. So to skip back, to go back to it, she was like, so Brandy was like, so wait a minute. Y'all sound like them and y'all never met them? I'm like, you never met them. She was like, do y'all want to meet them? I'm like, I mean, yeah. She was like, she said, okay, come here. So she grabbed both of our hands, right? And then she went up to him. She was like, Jimmy, Terry, I want y'all to meet somebody. She was like, this is Tim and Bob right here. Man, they both put their plate down, man, and they start, man, like, bow. They got on the ground and start bowing to us, man. Man, I started crying tears as soon as they did that, because they was like, y'all are the baddest dudes in the music industry, man.
Wow.
And then I was like, man, stop gassing us up, man. You know what I'm saying? They was like, I'm dead serious. And then Jimmy was like, I'm dead serious. You know, tell you why? He was like, because y'all, he said, who doing the beats and who know about hip hop? I'm like, I mean, both of us know about hip hop, but I do the beats though. He was like, that's what separates y'all from us. He was like, y'all know more about hip hop than we do. You know what I'm saying? He was like, but y'all melodies, he was like, man, keep doing them melodies that y'all learn on top of them records, man. He's like, y'all gonna start getting hit after hit after hit after hit. And we just sat and talked to them for a long time, and they start giving us little bitty trinkets on how to make a hit. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, are y'all trying to say we don't make hits or what? We just but no, it was like them telling us little bitty stuff. And you know what? LA is a really big influence on our life too. We got to go up there to go see LA when he's at La Face. He would have us go up there about like 3 or 4 times, and he'd be like, go to the next song. So he'd be on the phone talking to Clive, right? And then he'd be like, hold on for a second. He'd be like, go to the next song, man. And I'm like, why you keep telling me that? So he'd get back on the phone. He'd get back on the phone and be like, wait a minute, my record ain't playing and such and such. He was like, man, I'll be there tonight on a private plane, man. All right. And then he hang the phone up. He'd be like, hey, go to another song. So he was listening, but he'd be talking on the phone, right? And then he finally get off the phone and he'd be like, you know what y'all problem is, man? And we'd be like, what? He'd be like, man, y'all putting too much stuff in y'all songs, man. It's too many chords, man. I know y'all know all them gospel chords and all that. He said, but man, R&B don't need all that, man. So I was like, in my mind, I'm like, you just saying that because y'all don't know how to do that, man. You know what I mean? But man, I'm gonna tell you, man, once he kept telling us that, he was like, you know what? Y'all crowd, he said the first hook, y'all letting them ad-lib too much on the first hook. He was like, that's a sin, man. He said, make the first hook clean and then take out all them instruments. Y'all got too much stuff going on. He was like, because he was like, the artist, he's like, just because y'all know how to do it, don't mean y'all need to put it in the songs. He was like, and remember this, he was like, the artists need to be like an instrument. It's like just how y'all did the track. He's like, y'all got to find ways when y'all writing, when y'all doing. He said the melody got to be right on pocket on the 1 or the 2. He said, and don't let them, get all in the middle and crowd it up. He said, because you got to make the artist like an instrument, like a trumpet, like the bass, like all that going. So when he said that, it started clicking a little bit, man. I was like, all right, man, because I think we had like 5 singles before he told us that, and none of the 5 did anything, man.
Wow.
So we was like, man, how come these we getting singles, but they ain't doing nothing? So then when we finally did, they don't know, man. We did exactly what he told us, man. Don't put no ad-libs on the first hook. Put it in pocket, on and on and on. And then he was like, you know what? He sent us a bottle of Dom Perignon, me and Bob. He was like, y'all fine. He said, y'all finally listen, man. He said, y'all finally did it, man. Finally.
Yeah. No, as I said,
you know what I mean?
it's still a song that still has some power now. But think about, how was the first meeting with Dallas? How would you recall your first meeting with Dallas?
Man, it was tripped, man. It was tripped out, man. Okay, so Paul is the one that got us in the studio. So he went in one of the studios, and we went in there with him, right, at first. So we was in there first because they was getting produced by this white guy named White Mike, right? So after that, we come out, and then Paul was telling this dude Dave that used to handle all the Dallas stuff. He was like, hey man, these dudes, man, is from Chicago, man. He was like, he said, y'all need to check these dudes' tracks out. And then he went back in the room. So Paul went back in there to record, right? So Dave was like, he was like, so y'all producers? And I was like, yeah. He's like, who write? I'm like, me and Bob. He's like, so y'all do it, y'all the only two that do everything? I'm like, yeah. He was like, huh. So he was like, hey man, come take a ride with me, man. Now this is what's weird. We could have been anybody, man. He threw us in the back of this Jeep that Dallas had, and he went because he had to go get some more champagne and like just some more stuff because a lot of people had come to the studio. Like Arrested Development was there, TLC was there, like everybody from Atlanta was up in there because Dallas was trying to have a party and let everybody know that he was building a facility out, right? You know what I mean?
Okay.
So he let us I put the song in, and after a while, man, Dave was checking on us, and then Dave was like, hey, he said, we wasn't Tim and Bob yet, because Dallas is the one that named us Tim and Bob. I'm gonna get to that in a second. So he was like, Bob, Tim. He said, come here. He said, come in this room right here. We go in the room, man, and it was very intimidating, man, because it was like a long table, and it just had a place where you could play some music. So Dallas didn't come in there yet, right? So we was already making plans on going back home, man. I was like, I think I can call my mom. I think she'll give me 100. And then Bob was like, I think I can call my mom too. She'll give me 200. So we was thinking about like gas money and little snacks to get back. Because that's a long ride. That's like 10, 11 hours in the car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we was already thinking of like, okay, if he didn't like our music, man, like, we got to get home, man. You know what I'm saying? So Dallas had a hoodie on, right? He opened up the door and he still had the hoodie on. And he took the hoodie off and he was like, hey, man, y'all, man, are two of the baddest cats that have walked in the door. Wow. I was like, where's the camera at, man? I'm like, man, somebody played a trick on us or something like that. So when Dallas said that, I was like, man, stop, man. I did the same thing at Jam and Lewis, man. I did my same thing. I'm like, man, are you playing, man? Where's the camera at, man? Where's the trick camera? He said, no, man, y'all two of the baddest. He was like, I tell you what. He said, man, I got Johnny Gill. I got TLC album. I got, let me see, who else? He was just naming all of these artists, man. Tevin Campbell. Let me see, Tina Turner.
Monica,
I mean, he named. Now, mind you, we came from the floor and he naming all these records. He naming all the stuff that he said he got to do. He said, man, I don't feel like doing it, man. And then he was like, did y'all know Randy Rand? And I was like, yeah, we heard about it, man. He was like, man, I'm still down and out from that, man. He's like, wow. I'm just not in the mood, man. He was like, I'll tell you what. He's like, this room right here. He said, man, I'm going to put some equipment in this room, and I want to see what y'all come up with. How about, man, we did 40 tracks in a week. We didn't even leave that room, man. We stayed in that room. Because I was like, this is our chance because we can finally make it and not be back in Chicago or back in Detroit or whatever.
Yeah.
This is our chance right here. So we start coming up with stuff that sounded like Dallas, sounded like us. You know what I mean? And it's the craziest thing. He was like, man, I don't want to hear no ballads, man. We don't do ballads around here. So I'm like, I come from the Isley Brothers and Earth, Wind and Fire. I'm like, no ballads? Are you crazy? Oh. So we made him like ballads, man.
So he hasn't done Red Light Special by that time.
He didn't like ballads, man.
He hadn't done Red Light Special and Don't Take It Personal.
No, that was Babyface.
No, not Red Light Special. Oh, Creep. So he doesn't do ballads, does he? He did.
You know what? He started to, but before that, Boyz II Men album. Half that first album, This Is My Heart.
Yeah.
Let me see what else. A Lonely Heart.
Yeah.
And all that was ballads. He said he just real quick just started listening to Jam Lewis and them stuff. And then he just kind of just cooked the stuff up right there in his hotel, and he would bring it over. He said, but he really wasn't in the ballads, man. I'm like, man, I cannot believe as good as you can do ballads, man, you don't like them? Like, wow. So we just did them anyway, you know what I mean? We did ballads, up-tempos, mids, all that. So when he came, so when Dallas came in there to listen to the tracks, he was like, kept saying, all right, that's gonna be for Perfect Jim. That's gonna be for TLC. That's gonna be for
Wow.
Johnny Gill. That's gonna be for Shanice Wilson. So in my mind, I'm like, wow, man. Dallas literally changed our life. He changed our lives overnight, man. Shout out to Dallas, by the way, man. If it wasn't for Dallas, it wouldn't be no Tim and Bob. Another thing let me go back a little bit. So when we was leaving out the room, he was like, you know what, man? He said, y'all, cause I was talking the most, and Bob was always the one that's kind of quiet, right? So he was like, you know what? Y'all should call yourselves Tim and Bob. He was like, because everybody gonna think y'all two white boys, man. He said, cause that's two white names, man. Tim and Bob. You know what I mean? He was like, they gonna think that's these funky white dudes doing these tracks, man. He was like, so y'all should tell everybody y'all name is Tim and Bob. So Bob was like, afterwards when he left, Bob was like, I don't know about that, man, because my real name is Bobby. I'm like, my real name is Timmy. So Tim and Bob got a ring. Timmy and Bobby don't sound right. I was like, so we I'm
yeah,
like, we might as
Bobby.
well. I said, hey, man, we might as well do what he say, man, because I was just too scared to go home, man. You know what I'm saying? So we did everything he asked, man. And then you know what was crazy is that after one more thing, after Dallas, after he said that, he said, hey, come here for a second. He said, I want to show y'all what I did on Tracy Spencer, right? So he started playing the track. It was bumping so hard. It was, man. I was like, my stuff don't sound like this, man. How do he get his music to sound like this? But what it was is that Dallas just had the state of the art studio, man. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And I
they
never
are.
heard my
Yeah.
music that loud. So
Okay.
once I put my music in there, once I put the cassette or CD in there, it was sounding pretty good, and it was close to it, but it wasn't really sounding like Dallas and stuff. I can't lie. I mean, I was like, you know what? My mission gonna be is how do I get that to sound like that? And he had a hip hop dude in there named X, right? So X had all of the samples. He had all the hit the all of the hidden stuff, all of the break beats and all that stuff. He was like, y'all know what, man? He was like, man, Tim, he said, let me show you how to really get down, man. He was like, man, compress like this. He was like, man, you know what I mean? Gate like this. This is how I need to be. Not too much, but just a little bit of this. He was like, but don't have it too much. The
Wow.
compression, put this much compression in it, not that much. So shout out to X, man, Xavier, man. He was the one that really, really got me being like, oh, okay. So once I got that, I was like the drum guy of Dark. I was like, when everybody needed some drum, when anybody, because he had like what, maybe 5 producers,
Hmm.
including him and us. Dallas would be like, hey Tim, he'd be looking around, right? And he'd be like, hey man, let me get some of them drums you was playing last night. So I was like, okay, I got you. So, cause if he had to work on Michael Jackson or Madonna, he always be
Mm.
like, hey Tim, hey yo. And I always had a fresh pack of drums too. He'd be like, hey man, get them drums to Rick, because Rick was his programmer, right? He'd be like,
Okay.
hey man, get him one drums that you was playing last night. He was like, man, I want to get them, man. I was like, all right. So,
Mm.
you know, everything Dallas needed, I make sure we gave it to him, man, because I did not want to go home. You know what I'm saying? So
When
then after
you,
we start getting on stuff, man, it was
yeah.
like we was more like in demand and needed instead of like a liability. You know what I mean? Like had to learn on how to make stuff and how to make stuff happen. I was one of them dudes. Like if they came in there to see Dallas, Dallas would meet with them for 10 minutes, and then they would walk out. But then I hurry up and run up to them real quick, and I'll be like, "Hey, you know what? We just got signed to Dallas. Could y'all come in our room and hear our tracks?" And then that's how we would get on everything. Like I wasn't scared, man, to be like, hey, come here. Cause number one, I was really, really confident in our sound.
Mm.
So I would not let them leave the studio without hearing our stuff, man.
So
I
who did
wouldn't
that
do it.
work for with it that you did that and you got on the release a single?
Elder Bard. Let me see. Elder Bard.
Oh, for which album? Heart and Soul or
I can't remember what album it was, man.
maybe it
But
was
they came down to meet with Dallas, and then when they was leaving out, I got them in the room, and then we ended up doing the record. You know what I mean? That happened so many times, man. Because Dallas didn't feel like doing it anyway, man. So I was like, so that was another thing in my mind. I was like, I know Dallas don't feel like doing this, man, but I do. You know what I'm saying? I was like, always running up to him. I run up to him, and be like, "Hey, man, you know what? Could you go in our room, man? Our room is right here, man. And we got to get." I said, "I guarantee you, I got what you want, man." I was one of them dudes. I was just a talk piece, man. I was talking for us, man, and I just talk my way into a lot of stuff, man. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
again, it was Elder Barge, I don't know, Shanice Wilson, I don't know, just artists like that, Johnny Gill, you know what I mean? New Edition. Like they all was coming to see Dallas, but he didn't want to do it. So
Wow.
I'm like, I'll do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It-
because these was artists that I used to be in my mom's basement listening to. Like, I Like Your Smile. I was in my mom's basement, man. Can You Stand the Rain? Boyz II Men from New Edition that Jam and Lewis did.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Sunshine. Because of Sunshine, I'm here right now. That's what made
Ah,
me really want to be a producer when I heard that song. Sunshine from Alexander O'Neal.
Alexander Neil. Okay.
Man,
Okay.
that's
I
the
can't
perfect,
wait to
man.
hear
When I
Sunshine.
tell you, that's the perfect storm, man. It's the perfect storm. That's one of the greatest songs I've ever heard in my life, man. I
Wow.
got to give it up to Jam Lewis, man. It's written so well. It's produced so well. It's mixed so well. I mean, you
Mm.
can hear everything in there, man. That's
Wow.
when I was like, you know what? I want to be a producer.
Okay.
That song changed my life, man. I ain't gonna lie.
When
Cause my
you
mom,
okay.
go ahead.
No, no, cause you said your mom would so
Yeah,
Sunshine,
it
yeah.
was crazy because like I was telling you, like our family was always into like every Tuesday we would go into the record store and buy the albums, right? So
Mm.
I remember it was rain. I'll never forget. It was raining one night. My mom went to go get a couple albums, right? And she brought down Alexander O'Neal, and we was like, we remember the song "Fake," you know what I mean? But the album kept going, and it just went into Sunshine. Man, I was like, and me and my brother, man, we was sitting there, no lie, man, no lie, dog. We listened to it about 30 times, crying tears, man.
Wow.
We was like, what is this, man? I never heard nothing like this, man. I mean, out of all the stuff I knew, I'm like, I never heard anything that opened my ears up like that.
Wow.
And I was like, I got to do that. You know what I mean? And I tell them that story every time I see them, man. I'm like, man, thank y'all, man. Thank
Yeah.
y'all so much, man. For what?
Yeah.
For Sunshine, I wouldn't even be here, man.
Yeah. They created some magic, Jimmy and Terry. When you joined Dallas team, was Beck and Lloyd from Basic Black, were they in the team as well?
Hold on, say it again.
Um KB and Spec. They used to be part of Basic Black.
Oh, okay.
I thought
Yeah,
they were
yeah, yeah,
also
yeah.
part of the Jim Dallas's production camp.
I think we had already left by then.
Okay.
Yeah. So we left, man.
So how
What
long did you
happened
stay with
was
Dallas? Yeah.
we stayed with Dallas. Let me see, it was from 93 to like maybe like 90, I would say like 93 to 95,
Oh, not
95,
long.
96.
Okay.
So what happened was we was like, the only way we gonna, because what was going on is, you know, and I'm not trying to disrespect anybody when I'm saying this. It's just what happened. You know what I mean? But every time we would bring him somebody, he wouldn't sign him, man. Like we brought him Destiny's Child, which was called the Dolls at first. We brought him
Okay.
Forte, which was 112. We bought him Jagged Edge. We bought him I don't know, we just kept bringing him stuff, and he was like, nah. We was like, what about those girls that's running around, man? He was like, there's only one girl that sing. I'm like, Diana Ross is the only one sung first after Supreme, man. I'm like, man, come on. He was talking about Beyonce because she was the only one that was singing on our demos, right? Because we
Oh,
couldn't get nobody, we couldn't get none of the other girls to sing, but the backgrounds, they would sing no lead
they didn't want
because
to,
they were so scared of Beyonce, man. Once Beyonce hit that mic, man, all of them was like, I'll be like, hey, Kelly, it's your turn. She'd be like, or any of them be like, I ain't going after Beyonce. No way, man. So I was
wow.
like, wow.
Even as a
So
kid, she
that's
was
how
that good.
Beyonce ended up doing everything. You know what I mean? Because they, at first, at the beginning, they didn't have that much confidence in themselves to
Yeah.
go after Beyonce or before. You know what I mean? Because they knew that Beyonce was gonna eat them up, man. She was a woman. She was a girl trapped in a woman's body, man. I'm
You know,
telling you, how she sing right now.
yeah.
She was singing like that when she was 12 years old, man.
But the problem is that people, the rumors have always been like her dad wanted to push her to be the lead singer, and that's why she's the lead singer. But you're painting a picture where look, everyone was given an opportunity, but they all felt intimidated by her talent and stepped back. But everyone thinks her dad was like, nope, you're gonna sing, and everyone else is just gonna be the background. And so that wasn't the case.
And that wasn't the case at all, man. I'm telling you, man. They all had equal opportunities, man. They was just scared to go before or after her, man. Like we would have to beg them, man. Like, go ahead, get in the booth, man. I got you. You know what I mean? But one thing about Beyonce, I gotta say, every time when we was doing all their demos, she would come out and she would sit right in the middle of me and Bob, right? And she'd be like, "What's that button for?"
Wow.
She was always interested in the board, man. She'd be like, "What's that? What's that? What's that?" Every day I used to have to give her a lesson, man, on what the board was, man. She was interested in the whole process, man. She was like, "Why y'all use that mic? Why y'all make me go back?" Man, she blew at least about 5 Sony mics, man.
Wow.
And we had to pay for them. There was like 10,000 a mic we had to pay for, man.
What?
She blew 5 mics, man, because she didn't know how to she was only 12, you know what I mean? With a big voice. So when she sung, she used to stay right close to the mic instead of
Okay.
like if she get loud, come back a little bit. So we had to teach her that, right? But before that, man, she'd be singing and she blow them. I'll be like, you know what, Bob? She just blew another mic, man. So in our mind, we be like, cha-ching. We already knew, like, okay, 15,000. Cha-ching, 15.
Oh
It was
man.
crazy, man. She was blowing mics left and right, man. Her and Monica, matter of fact, man. Monica used to blow mics too.
Wow. But the
Yeah, that's
song
how
that you
amazing they were at first.
the song that you had I saw a clip of you showing playing a track that you said Beyonce sang, and that became the reference for "I'm So Into You" with by Tamia. Why didn't it come out with for Destiny's Child, that track?
You know what? That's a good question, man. It's so many. It's so it was back then. You know, when we was coming up, when we wasn't quite all the way there, it
Mm.
was so many politics behind everything, man. So, and we didn't have no say so and stuff, man. So we would record a song and we didn't have no say so. We had to just turn it in and just pray it get on the album, man. Pray it be a single. You know what I mean? It's like we didn't have no power back then, man. But then eventually, as we got number one hits, they was listening to us. They'd be like, "What y'all think, Tim and Bob?" I'm like, "Y'all asking us questions, man? That's crazy, man. That's a new one, man." You know what I mean? So we started getting a little power, getting deals and stuff like that, and everybody started trusting us after that. But that's what happened with that record. We did that record because Beyonce's voice. She was 12 when we first started. When we
Wow.
did that, she was 14, and her voice changed. So they didn't want her sounding like she sounded. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
we did about, man, I wish I had some more records, man, but we did about like 5 extra ones. But we didn't, but what was crazy is we didn't think for call me crazy, man. We just did not, I don't know why. We didn't think that they was gonna do anything, man. So we didn't
Wow.
pay attention to them enough, man. We didn't put enough energy into that. You know what I mean? So they just slipped out of our hands, man. But
Wow.
at first, man, everything was like what do y'all think, man? What y'all think we should do? You know what I mean? Like her dad, he would ask us all kind of questions, man. And A&R, like we was really, really, really like invested at first when we was doing the joints, but then after Dallas said he didn't want to sign him, we was off to something else, man.
Oh,
112, which was Forte. The name was Forte at first, but we was trying to get them going. We was trying to get other stuff going, and we wasn't really thinking about them as much. You know what I mean? So we could
yeah.
have had half that. We could have had half that first album, man. But
Wow.
because she wanted to record the songs, you know what I mean? The songs that we had did,
Yeah.
she wanted to record them over, man. But we didn't do nothing. We just did some new stuff. So
Oh,
that pre-chorus, man, what happened was I think Bob touched on it, but what happened was Mario was working on Tamia, right? And we was in the studio, you know, just hanging out and all that. And then Mario was like, "Y'all like me?" It was like, "Guess where I got my style from? These dudes right here." Said, "Man, guess where I got my drum breaks and all that stuff from him." And so he was pointing at me because I'm the one that gave him the breakbeat crates, you know what I mean, to learn about
okay.
breakbeats and all that stuff. It's like, man, y'all need to go listen to they tracks. So I remember I just did So Into You before that because Say Yeah was really special to my heart because my dad and them used to always play that. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Their band always did that song. So when I got the album, when I found out where that song was at, on what album it was from, I was like, you know what? One day I'm gonna sample this, and it's gonna be a song. You know what I mean? So I
yeah.
sampled it, and then I put the Mary Jane drums on it, and it was already there. So it was on, but it was on a cassette. It wasn't on a CD, right?
Okay.
So when we were showing her stuff, I was like, "Hey Bob, you know what? I think I did one the other day. She might like." As soon as I put that on, man, everybody started going crazy. Man. All the A&R started going crazy. And it was real. It was like, you know, a cassette track,
Mm,
the A cassettes, it didn't really have a good, you know, it was a hiss in it, you know what I mean? And it
mm,
still was going crazy, man. I was like,
wow.
okay, if they going crazy like that, man, wait till we do it. So what happened was we went back to the hotel and me and Bob was talking on the phone. Bob was like, "Hey man, you got to come up with a hook real quick, Tim." I said, "Come up with a hook, man." I was like, "All right." I said, "Be thinking about a melody too, man." So I called Bob. So when we hung up, I don't know, for some reason, man, I came up with a hook really quick, and I start singing it to Bob, and he was like, "Hey man, that's a crazy hook right there." I said, "You know what? Let's get Brandy to do the demo, man, because we already knew Brandy because she was a real good friend of ours." So
Wow.
Brandy and Mario did the demos for us. That's why Mario is on the backgrounds. That's So Into
Oh.
You. Mario's on the backgrounds, but we had to take Brandy off, man.
Oh, so the label wouldn't have wanted it.
Nah, man. We was like, we don't want nothing. We don't want nothing going on. No back and forth. No competition aspect. Nothing, man. So we had Mario do it. So Mario did the vote. So then he did the verses after Brandy did it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
How did Brandy
And then
sound?
so and then he did the background. So he was already working on the album. So she was like, let's just leave him on the backgrounds. You know what I
Oh,
mean? So that's how that happened,
okay.
man.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Tamia didn't really care much about having her vote doing her own background.
Nah, she didn't even really care. And the A&Rs didn't either because when Mario, the background sounded so good when Mario did it that they was like, you know what? Y'all should just leave Mario on there, man.
It
Cause he
sounds like a
already on the
female.
backgrounds on some of her songs, on some of the other album songs. So leave him on there and just put Timmy on the top. We was like, okay, cool.
Okay. Okay.
So that's how that happened, man. But no,
Okay.
but we could have wrote the whole song too, man, because a matter of fact, man, I think on her, I had a whole verse written for the second verse. So she was like, she was in the booth, right? And that's when she started learning about publishing and stuff. She was in the booth. She was like, "Hey, you guys, you know what? Y'all mind if I kind of help out with the second verse?" And in my mind, I already had the second verse. But I was like, you know what? Yeah, it's all good. So she wrote the first two lines, and then we kept the second two lines that I came up with. So it
Okay.
ended up working because I wanted to get on the album so bad. I was like, hey, if you even don't even like what I wrote, man, take it off. You can write whatever you want to write. I just want to get on your album, man.
Why is
Because
that though?
Quincy Jones had done her album. So, you know, her her budget was like she had no ceiling, man. So I was like, maybe the you know what I'm saying? Maybe we'll get paid over here. Maybe we get some more records, man. Like whatever she want, man, go ahead. And Brenda Ritchie was manager too at the same time. That was a
Wow.
Lionel's
Lionel's wife.
ex-wife,
Okay,
Brenda
okay.
Ritchie. Yeah, she
Wow.
used to manage her. So we was like, man, okay, she got Quincy Jones and she
Mm,
got Brenda Ritchie. We
yeah.
got to get on here by any means necessary.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
happened was they came out with the first song. Jermaine had the single, and then they was gonna go to another album. And just like they don't know, man, I used to talk to all the A&Rs, right? So I think Jay was an A&R then. Jay that's over at he's over at Jay-Z's joint right now, right?
Okay.
So Jay was up at Quest. I said, hey, Jay, man, I said, you know what? I said, man, why don't you white label this and just send it to the DJs and see what they say, man? He was like, that was back then when white labels didn't cost that much. He was like, but
Okay.
man, y'all could do, you know what? Y'all could do a whole album, man, and you know it'll cost just as much. I'm like, yeah, but you know what? We this record right here, you know what I mean? It's something about this one, man. Just white label it and just see what happens. Sure enough, he white labeled it, man, and it went from number 60 to the next week it was on the left side of the chart, man. It was like number 13 or 10 or something like that.
Wow. And they
Yeah, man.
re-pushed the album.
Yeah. So then they start pushing it. Yeah. So then they really, put some money behind that song and her album. And I think it went gold in a lot of countries. I think it might be gold right now here. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Just
Okay.
turned gold. Because
Yeah.
every day, I'm a stat dude. I'm
Okay.
always looking at RIAA every day, see what albums we was on that wasn't,
Yeah.
gold back then if they are now. So I'm one of them dudes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
always looking at the stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. It went up. Okay, so 2 million. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
But the
that
thing
was
is,
one of the ones.
because I'd been a fan of Tamia's when she first came out with "You Put a Move in My Heart," because my favorite all-time favorite song is "The Lady in My Life," Michael Jackson, written by Rod Temperton, produced
Right.
by Quincy. And so Rod Temperton wrote "You Put a Move in My Heart," and Quincy produced it. So it was almost like "The Lady in My Life" Part Two. And then her voice was very unique and distinct when she sang. I was like, wow, this so one of my favorite female vocalists is Tamia. So I think, when when you do listen to I'm So Into You, it is one of the things that her vocals stand out. And but when you guys were putting it together, did you think it was going to be a hit, or you just thought it was just a nice?
Not at
Okay.
all, man. Cause I was just messing around, man. I just was like, you know what? This is a record that my dad's band used to do. So let me just go ahead and sample that. Let me find some drums. So then I sampled Mary Jane Girl drums. And then we didn't have a studio in the house at first. So it was just I just recorded it on a 8-track and then just showed her, you know what I mean? And then it just ended up doing what it did, man. It's weird about music, man. Like sometimes it sounds like it could be like with the right push, it can be what can be, but
Mhm.
you just don't know because you don't know how much money they're gonna put behind it. Because behind the scenes, it takes a lot for a record to be number one, man. It ain't just you producing it. Because once you turn in, you're talking about, man, like marketing, promotion, radio promotion. Then they got to go on these little tours.
Mm.
Then the radio got to pick it up. And then, you know what I mean? It's just so much stuff that just goes behind it that you just don't know, man, what it's going to do. So that's one of them records that, like, you know what? It's a single. I was just thinking about this. I'm like, you know what? We got another single. And if it do good, you know what I mean? Uh that'll look like Tim and Bob don't miss because we wasn't missing, man, at first. like after we did They Don't Know, we was not missing, man. So when I did So Into You, I was like, let's see what happens, man. Sure enough, it just did what it did, man. It's just one
Yeah.
of them ones that to this day that everybody just love, man. And I'm like,
Yeah, I think that's a signature song. I don't know if, especially with the, what's your recollection then of Fabulous doing you know, because Bob mentions that they didn't give, what's the DJ? I've lost his name
oh,
now.
DJ Clue.
Clue, yeah, that those are
Yeah.
your guys, but they didn't really tell you guys, okay, looking at sampling, replaying this, and what are your thoughts that you just heard it on the radio, or
Um,
the fabulous
well,
version of
yeah,
it?
I kind of already heard it already because I helped out with the drums, you know what I mean?
Oh,
So I
of
already
the
heard it.
okay,
Of their version. Like I helped out with the drums, you know what I mean? So I already heard it. And then they had Ashanti on the they had Ashanti on there at first, like if you listen to I think on his album, if you listen to the album,
yeah,
Ashanti is on the song.
yeah.
So
So
what
I've heard
happened was,
Ashanti's version, yeah.
yeah. So what happened was, is I was cool with Clue, right? So he was like, "Hey, man, what you think, man?" I was like, "You know what, man? Let me call Tamia, man." I was like, "It'll be a bigger record if Tamia was on there because it was already a hit on it, man. You should make Tamia do the backgrounds." So Irv already had turned it down, man. Like when they decided it was gonna be a single, Irv Gotti turned down Ashanti's version because she already had another single that was gonna come out. So back then they didn't want two songs coming out from somebody because they would be fighting each other, you know what I mean?
On the
So
charts.
once we convinced like the label and Jay and everybody else, like, hey man, it was already a hit. Fabulous Man is doing the record too. You know what I mean? It might be a single. So Tamia did the backgrounds, and then it became a single on Fabulous Man and went number 1. I mean, that's the plaque right there.
Yeah.
I
But do you think? But you
don't know if you
think?
can see it now, but yeah.
Yeah, but you think
What?
Ashanti would have? Does she seem upset that she didn't get to stay on it because it was a big track?
Well, I don't know how she feel, after it came out. You know what I mean? Because it really, really did really good after that. It went number 1 and pushed his album, as you can see. It went to probably about like 2 million. So, but she already had a single was going to come out, and she was really excited about that already. So she really wasn't tripping like at first. But we
Yeah,
never had that conversation. We never had that conversation because we ended up working with her again. She never mentioned it. Man, she was always just talking about other stuff, man. She never mentioned. She didn't say nothing about the song, man. So I
yeah,
didn't even know where she stood. You know what I mean? I didn't know if she like was gonna say, hey, or if it was on her mind, like, hey, how come? You know what I mean? But I know what it was. She had a single coming out, and I didn't want them to fight against each other. You know what I'm saying?
okay. But I know that because even recently, Tamir Fabulous says, "Oh yeah, we would have used Tamir, but she had a throat in operation," and she says, "I've never had a throat operation." So she didn't seem too pleased that she wasn't initially invited to do the single hook on her own record. And the excuse Fabulous said is like, oh, because she had had throat surgery, so she wasn't going to be able to do it.
They always got to come up with something, man, because they know that the fans was gonna be asking. They was like, "Wait, that was a hit on so into you was a hit on Tamia. How come she ain't on there?" You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I'm sure that was added pressure too to put her on there because it was already a hit on her. Why would you have Ashanti do the backgrounds where you could just call Tamia? It didn't make any sense.
yeah.
So you know what? Speaking of that, man, I'm gonna come all the way around. This is a full circle thing that I'm about to say, but if you think about Quincy, right?
Mhm.
The Brothers Johnson, his albums, Michael Jackson's albums.
Mhm.
If you think about it, man, they had a sound too. And you know who was doing all that? Who was mixing all that stuff? It was Bruce Swedien.
Oh, Bruce Lee,
So Bruce
okay.
Swedien. So when I met him, when I was doing that album right there, that J Lo album, I met
Mhm.
him, right? So I told him, You know what he said, man? It was like he played a man. His ears were so crazy, man. He put a record in, man. He was like, said, who did this? He said, Tim and Bob did this, didn't they? He didn't even know who he was, man. That's how crazy his ears was, man.
Mm.
He was like, he said, who did this, man? Tim and Bob? So then I went up to him, man, because he was at the board, right? So then I went up to him, I sat down, and I was like, hey, man, I can't believe I'm in here with you, man. I was like, you know what? I said, can you show me some tricks? He was like, you already know all the tricks. I was like, I want to know your tricks, man. He was like, all right, man, ask me anything and I'll tell you anything. So I incorporated a lot of stuff that he was doing because he was one of the greatest engineers, man. His
Yeah.
ears was crazy, man.
Yeah.
He could hear something and he could tell you who it was, and or he'd be like, oh, that's such and such. Oh, that's this, that. That's another reason why I like, you know what I mean? That I was like, I gotta hone in on my sound and make it better. And that's what made me came up with Slow Down, man. Because I always had that sound. I was messing around with Asian samples when I was in Atlanta. But I didn't think that nobody would like it because everybody was doing all this other stuff. I was like, ain't nobody gonna like this stuff, man. But I had Asian samples, man. I had a gang of Asian samples,
This
man.
is before Timbaland.
Oh yeah. I had Asian, Indian, all that weird stuff I had, man. And I always had them, but I just never played them for nobody. So what happened was when we finished Bobby's album, right? Like what happened was I started Bobby's album, and then I think Bob's mom had she had a stroke too. So Bob went to Atlanta. So I started the album, then Bob came back. So then when we finished the album, they was gonna make what's that song? Can You Touch Me? Because we put LL Cool J on there, right? And I was like, you know what? He's just gonna sound like he's just gonna be a regular dude, man. I was like, now's the time to pull out your Asian stuff. So I just went to go see Hero, right? And when I saw Hero, I heard that sample. So when I heard that sample, I left and I automatically, that was when Tower was open. I went and grabbed the soundtrack from Tower, and then I went home real quick, sampled it, put some drums on it, and then I sampled the bass inside the MPC. So I already had the track already done already. You know what I mean? Like the way it's going right now,
Yeah.
I can push play right now. I can show you. It sounds just like it. You know what I mean? Bob just added some guitar to it.
Yeah.
So we didn't even really add no instruments to it. But when Bobby heard it, he was like, "What is that, big bro?" He was like, "Golly, man." I was like, "Y'all like that?" And then the A&R dude that was his name was Poon. I think Bob was talking about Poon Daddy because it was Poon Daddy, Ludacris, and Lala Anthony at the time. They was the biggest. So Poon was like, "Hey man, I ain't never heard nothing like that." So I was surprised that they liked it, man. I was like, "Wow." So I was like, "Okay." So then we kept letting it, we kept letting it play. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, me and Bob came up with the hook, and then we came up with the verses. But then I made sure I was like, I promised Bobby because Bobby was living with me like the whole time we was doing the album. He was living with me. So when we wake up, I always promised Bobby. I was like, Bobby, you know what? What I'm gonna do? I was like, even if you don't write on it, man, I'm gonna make sure I get you a percentage on this, man, so you can get a publishing deal. I said, and I'm gonna find you a real good publishing deal, man. And I found it for him. He ended up getting like 800 to a million or something like that.
Wow.
And even on songs he didn't even write, I just put his name on it, man, just to help him out. But what I did was I took the record and I went to that was when PJ Butter was like one of the biggest. He was one of the biggest spinners out here at the radio station, and I was like, they might like it, they might not. He's like, all right, man. He said, so he was like, hey, you know what? He said, this is PJ Butter's bootlegs. Da 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 da. He's like, I want to play something from y'all. So he said, it's produced and written by Tim and Bob. He was like, da 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 da. So it's called Slow Down. Check it out, man. I'm gonna tell you, man. As soon as he put it on, his board lit up, man.
Wow.
So I had to take the questions, right? So while the song going, I'm talking to the people. They was like, what was you guys thinking about this? So I'm like, wow, man. I think I created something. I think I created like people gonna want this sound, man.
Wow.
Because like, you know what I mean? I had so many of them samples because I had so many again, like I had so many Indian and Asian sounds, man. It's ridiculous. I still do to this day. So I was like, I think I created something. And then with Bob doing what he's doing on there, it just sounds a little different. So so then everybody just start coming to us and saying they want that sound. It was like, we want exactly what Bobby got. And I'm like, wow. I just couldn't, I was just stunned. I couldn't even believe they even liked it, man.
But how did you meet him? How did you meet Bobby?
Oh, say it again.
How did you meet Bobby Bobby V? How did you?
It's because we worked on remember his group that he was in?
Mr. Yes. So that is it, Black Member.
So
yeah, Mr. Yeah,
so what happened was,
yeah. Mr.
Right.
Yeah.
So they came to us, they said they wanted us to produce the album, their next album, right? So we did the whole album, but as we was doing the album, Bobby was 5'3", one was 6 foot, one was 6'3". They looked like a basketball team, man. It didn't look like a group no more. So here go little Bobby right here, and here go the other guys like this tall, that tall. So Sylvia Rome was like, you know what? I love the music, man, but the look ain't there no more, man.
Wow.
So she dropped him, man. So
wow.
He came to us one day. He was like, hey, man, this was just before we was about to move to California because we had got a deal with DreamWorks. So I was tired of flying, you know what I mean? So I told Bob, I'm like, hey, man, we might as well move there, man. So Bob was like, all right, let me handle some stuff in Atlanta and then I'll come back. So I stayed. I didn't go back to Atlanta.
Okay.
But before I left, Bobby was like, hey, man, do you know that Sylvia Rome dropped us, man? I'm like, for real? Out of all the songs we did? Because we did some dope joints on there, man. It just never came out, though. So I went to Atlanta, and then about like a year or something like that, year and a half after I had my first house, I got a knock on the door, right? Open the door, and there go Bobby right there standing at my front door, man. I'm like, how'd you get here, man? He was like, man, he said, man, I was telling I just kept telling everybody, can't nobody do me like Tim and Bob, man. I gotta find where they at, man. I said, man, first of all, how'd you get past my gate, man? They don't let nobody in here. This is a private community right here. How'd you get in? He was like, man, I told him I was your brother, man. I'm like, you don't look like me, man. You got curly hair and light skin. He was like, man, he said, as soon as I'm your brother, he said, they just let me in and I just walked up. So then he came in and he started showing me the stuff that he was doing and he sounded a lot better. So I was like, you know what? I think we can make him sound better. So I said, you know what? Go home, get some clothes, and then you can come back and stay with me. Let's do an album. And then that's exactly how it happened.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay. And then when the song was blown up, did you help him shop around for a deal?
Actually, we did, man. Nobody wanted to sign him, man. It's like no label wanted to sign him, man. Nobody wanted to take a chance. I don't know why, man. Because to me, I thought he was the perfect artist because, you know, it couldn't have been a size because there's so many cats that's like 5'3", 5'5". Heck, Prince was like what, 5'3", 5'4".
Yeah.
And look what he did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it wasn't a size. And I think they were just scared of the sound because I created so many records, man, from the samples that they sounded so different. Everybody back then was scared to take a chance on it because it wasn't like the normal album, you know, that you heard. It was quite different. So
yeah,
nobody would want to sign them, man. So I remember we had a label deal at Def Jam. Leora was going to Warner Brothers though. So what happened is when Leora was leaving out the building and then LA was coming in, LA called us and was like, look, he was like, hey man, if y'all let this be, he said, man, if y'all let this come, he said, what y'all doing, man? Y'all gonna keep y'all label here or y'all leaving? What y'all doing? He was like, I don't know, man. He was like, I'll tell you what. He said, if y'all keep this at Def Jam, however y'all want to do it, I don't know how y'all want to do it. Y'all keep this here. It's gonna be he said this is gonna be Def Jam's first #1 song.
Oh, so he was
And every
saying if
time
you wanted to sign Bobby on, was Bobby signed to Steph Soul?
at first he was signed to our label that we had because we had two labels up there. But we ended up going with Leor, right? But Disturber the Peace had a label there too. And they didn't have nobody, they didn't have no R&B at the time. So they wanted me and Bob to take care of the R&B, right? So I said, oh, let's just see if this worked out with Bobby. So Ludacris heard the album and he was like, no, I'll take that back. I'll take that back. Ludacris had already recorded on the album already. So when he heard the whole album, he was already invested in it already because he already had a song on there and he already had rapped on one called Give Me a Chance, right?
Mm.
And then he was like, yeah, he said, man, we'll sign him, man. And I was like, for real? He was like, yeah. I'm like, all right. So we ended up doing a deal with him. And then we all was executive producer on it. Me, Bob, Ludacris, Shaka, and his brother Jeff.
Okay.
So we was executive producer on it. LA released it and it went #1 for like 2.5 months, man.
Were you surprised that it blew up?
Surprised. That's another one, man. Very surprised, man. Because it sounded so different than anything that was out. I
Mm.
never thought that it was going to even do anything, man, because I was like, nothing is out like this. Because, I think if I can recall, Timberland and Pharrell, they haven't quite, had their footing yet in their style. So I know, they got into the Indian samples too, but
Mm.
nobody really had nothing out like that.
Yeah,
You
I
know what I mean?
think
So I was like, you know
yeah,
what? LA said it's gonna go #1. Then LA always when he said that, you best believe that it was gonna be #1 or #2 or it was gonna be
wow.
real close. Cause you think of LaFace, you think of Tony Braxton, Usher,
Yeah,
Outkast, all that stuff, man, went crazy, man.
yeah, yeah.
So LA just learned from Clive, you know what I mean?
Mm.
So when LA said that, hey, this gonna be a #1 song, we really believed in it, man, because everything Clive touched, man, turned to gold.
Yeah.
Same thing with LA, and then LA taught Dallas. And so I was like, you know what? LA ain't never steered us wrong, man. Anything that we ever did, man. So, you know what I mean? Let's just see
Yeah.
what happens. And sure enough, man, in like 2 weeks, it was #1.
Wow. What was it
Yeah,
like?
man.
So what was it like when you got the call to feature on Bobby Brown's third album, Forever? Because this was the first album that he didn't have Teddy Riley and LA and Babyface doing any production. So he had DOA Allen and yourselves handling some productions. So what was that like for you then to say, okay, wow, we're going to work with Bobby Brown and there's no Teddy, a bit LA and Babyface on the album.
That's a good question, man, because I really love what Teddy did. Teddy did an amazing job on that. And LA and Babyface, they just had a connection with him. So we was like, all right, you know what, we're going to bring our secret weapon in to help us out. And that was Derek Colbert, nicknamed Boo Boo. That was in Highland Place Mobsters. We knew that if we had Boo Boo's voice on there, we already knew that we gonna be all right. It was gonna be like magic. So the first one we did was Forever, right?
I love that
So
song.
so when
Yeah.
we did that, Bobby showed Whitney, right? And Bobby came to the so we used to I remember Bobby, man, was like that dude, man. He didn't come to the studio till 3 in the morning, man. We'd be sitting there waiting for him all day, all night. He finally came in. He was like, "Hey, man, you know what, man?" He said, "Guess who like Forever, man?" He was like, "Whitney, man. This is her favorite song, man." And I'm like, "Whitney Houston?" He was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Hey, man, you got to hook that up, man. We got to work with her." He was like, "No." He said, "Finish my album first, man." It took us about a year and a half to do his album, man. We ain't never spent that much on the album, man.
Wow.
The most we spent on the album was maybe like 2-3 weeks, man. But he was so in demand at that time. We had to come out to LA. I mean, we had to follow him everywhere, man. And
But
then New Edition that did that album, Bobby got
oh,
back in the group.
oh
So
yeah,
Bobby got
yeah,
in the
yeah,
group,
yeah,
back in the
yeah.
group back then. Remember that?
Oh, so
Yeah.
you had
So we had
started
to.
the album when he was before he did the Home Again album with New Edition.
Yeah, we sure did. Yeah.
Oh,
So and then he did a Thin Line Between Love and Hate up there.
yeah,
So he
yeah,
was
it
in a
would,
movie. So
yeah.
he was doing a movie, and he
On
got
the
back
Home
to New
Again tour,
Edition,
yeah, Home Again tour.
and he was doing his album. So MCA. This was his last for his contract. That was his last album. So I don't know. We was like, we just gonna just do what we think, man.
Mm.
Think that would really make a mark, man, with him, man. And, you know, what the problem was, it just took, he missed the mark because it just took so long to make the album, man. So once the album came out, they weren't even really interested in Bobby no more, man. And they didn't push the button. But if they did, it would have, man. That was
Yeah,
3-4 million. That was a 3 or 4 million seller, man, all
yeah,
day.
and
But
actually, yeah,
they didn't push the button on it, man.
yeah. I
And he
think,
got so mad, man. He was so mad, man. It was ridiculous, man.
but did
But
you?
that was his last album for his contract,
Okay.
and he was also he went back to MCA, so that's why that didn't really do anything, man. We
Did
was
but it,
bummed too.
did you ask him how come he wasn't using Face or Teddy, or was there or you?
Um, you know what happened? What happened was is that okay, so Nate, a guy named Nate Smith, that was our manager, right? He was Bobby's manager too. So Nate was like, "Hey man, y'all want to get the jump on LA and Teddy?" And
Okay.
we was like, what you talking about? He was like, cause Bobby love y'all, man. He wants y'all to do a couple songs, man. So when we did the first two, we just kept going, man. And
Mm.
he was like, you know what? I don't even need Teddy in LA on this one, which I thought that was crazy because they're incredible, man. But
Yeah.
he was like, man, y'all my Teddy, y'all my Elliot Babyface, man. I'll be all right. He was like, I'll be good, man. But we didn't know, man, that MCA wasn't going to market and promote it. They didn't put no money behind it, man. If you notice, man, think in your mind, any promotion on that album, man, that you heard, new Bobby, new this
No,
coming, man.
no, no. We
They
only saw the
never did
video.
any
Yeah.
promotion, man.
Yeah. He
They
only,
just threw the album out. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
You can't, somebody like Bobby Brown, man, like
Yeah.
you got to have some marketing, man, before it come out and during and after. They didn't
Yeah.
do none of that, man. They just threw it out. You know what I mean? Threw it
Wow.
out there, man.
No, but at this time, though, because we've all watched his documentary and we all we know the challenges that he and Whitney were facing at this time. Do you think it was probably the label scene, especially because he couldn't even complete the Home Again tour, they had to kick him off because of his behavior, which he's confessed about. So it's not it was a secret back then, but now it's all open. But did you think that might have had an impact on the label thinking, you know what, this is going to get out of hand. We'll just put it out there and just cut our losses. Um,
You know what? It could be, man.
mm,
That very well could be, man. But we don't know, man. You know what? Let me tell you something about Bobby Brown, man. People just be seeing the image, man. You know, the image that he portrayed. He's one of the nicest guys I ever met in my life, man. He will give you the you know what? You know what? We used to come in the studio, right? And I'll be like, hey man, where'd you get that shirt from? That shirt is dope. He said, you like, he'd be like, you like this, man? Do you know he would take the shirt literally off his back and give it to you? If you say, hey man, I like that watch, man, he'd be like, you like this, man? Take it off and give it to you, man. He was so giving and so kind, man.
mm,
I'm telling you, man. He's one of the greatest guys, man, you could ever meet, man.
wow.
And it ain't just because of the material stuff. It's
Yeah.
just because of how his brain worked, man. He was
Mm,
always in the giving, man. He was a giving guy, man.
wow.
He always believed in like if you like it, take it. because
Wow.
he can always get it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you know the Creed cologne,
Mm.
like he used to come in smelling like Irish tweed. You ever heard of Irish tweed cologne?
No,
Irish
no.
tweed.
Mm.
So he used to come in smelling like this. He was like, "What is that cologne he got on? Is crazy, man." So we was like, "Hey, man, what's that cologne you got on, man?" He said, "Hold on for a second, man. Do you know, man?" He went to the store, man, and came back and gave me and Bob, man, some Irish tweed Creed. He went to
Wow.
the store and bought us some, man.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
that's how nice he was. He was a man. You would not think he that nice of a guy, man. That was
Yeah.
cool. He's so cool, man. He really is, man.
But then what was it like
He just,
recording him then? Because if he was struggling in those times, how did you guys manage to get him, especially to sing your ballads? Because if he does up tempo, he's really fine. He's got his range, but to sing the ballads,
you know what, man? I was one of them dudes where it was like because we did so many people, I just became a person of like, you know what I mean? I know their personality and I'll deal with it because the end result is hit records. That's what
yeah,
you wanted, you know what I mean? So it's
yeah,
like I whatever I had to do to get to that, I was gonna do it. So Bobby was one of the ones. Once he got in the booth, man, he be playing around, man, saying all kind of weird stuff. Not even the lyrics that we wrote. But at first, he would love what we write. But then he go in the booth, man, and start doing something else. He'd be like, "Hey, man, let's go to the strip club." And I'm like, because there used to be some strip clubs right up the street. He'd be like, "Hey, man, let's go to the strip club, man." And I'm like, no. I'm like, let's finish the song real quick. He'd be like, man, y'all suckers, man. Y'all some suckers, man. So I'll be like, you know what? If it's gonna get him, you know, to do the vocals, let me just hang out for a little bit. So we'll go over there, man, you know what I mean? And then he used to go in there and then I'll be like, hey Bobby, man, you know what? We got one going, man. We need to get back to Boss Town, man, and finish this record. He'd be like, you know what, man? You right, man. Because he used to really realize when he got up in there, it wasn't nothing up in there for us, man, anyway, man. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? It was
yeah,
like the goal was in that studio. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
when I used to talk to him and tell him that, he realized that and he was like, all right, you know what? Let me get my butt back in here and get right, man. But it took us,
yeah.
I ain't gonna lie, it took us like a year or two to record him, man.
Wow.
Because he would always go in the studio and messing around, man. You know what I mean? It was crazy,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
Singing the wrong lyrics, man, and like all kind. He's like a big kid, man.
yeah.
You could.
But
It was hard to get him to really hone it, but once he did, he got it. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? It
yeah,
was like he was nocturnal, man. So he's like he used to come in really late, but when we got him to really lock in on
yeah.
the verses, he did what he did, man. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But it was really hard to get him right. I can't front. Because he be
Another,
thinking about all kind of stuff. You know,
yeah,
he'd be like, hey man, it's some waffles in Boston, man. That's so good, man. Let's get on my private plane and go get the waffles real quick. And I'm like, come on, man. He be thinking about all the wrong stuff, man, at first, man. But then
Okay.
when he zeroed in,
Yeah.
but you know what's crazy is we used to have to call Tommy his brother all the time,
Oh,
right?
he's
Be like,
okay. Yeah.
and then Tommy be like, "Hey, y'all record, man? Is Bobby at the studio?" He's like, "Yeah, man, but you know what? We can't get him to really lock in, man. He's thinking about Boston, restaurant in LA, and he want to get on a plane and go to LA." And then Tommy be like, "Man, give me the phone, man." So then once he talked to Bobby and hang up, Bobby be like, all right, let's go, man. You know what I mean? But then Bobby used to lock in and then he got it right. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Got the text right. But it was funny though, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think
It was fun times.
I interviewed DOA Allen, and he spoke about his own experience because he also did tracks on the album with
He sure
Bobby.
did.
Yeah.
Do you know, man? Hey, he was a bad, you know what? DOA was bad, man. You know, you tell you, man, he did all his tracks he did all his tracks. Can you hear me? He did
Yeah, I
all his
can.
tracks on a bass, man.
Wow.
So the keys and all that stuff is because he knew how to play. He knew how to play chords on his bass.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
That dude is bad, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can't even
Yeah.
front, man. That's a bad dude, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was coming up with some crazy stuff. And then at the end of it, we'd be like, we used to ask Nate, we'd be like, hey, he know how to play? He was like, nah, man. He just played bass, man. I'm like, well, how them keys and them strings and all that? He said, he playing from his bass. He just MIDI his bass, man. I
Wow.
was like, man, you know what? It's a talented cat, man.
Yeah.
Dang.
No, definitely. The other story we had was the I'm Missing You, Joe and Case.
Yeah.
Who do you think had, because people debate who they think had the better version. Both are great singers, but it's, I know Case has the one that was more in the public eye, that we all get to hear on the video and really blew up. But then others who had heard Joe's version and thought actually probably preferred his version. But what was your thoughts?
You know what? Let me get the side note in there. I think Bob forgot. He talking about the record that it's a record that we did on Joe called Ghetto Romance, and Damage is the one that did it. So, but it was so long ago, man. You know, I think Bob kind of like, forgot a little bit. But it was called Ghetto Romance that we did on Joe, and it was on Damage.
Okay.
It was
From
I
the
think they
UK,
was from
yeah.
London.
Yeah, 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 damn it, yeah.
Yeah, and then that went number one. So, all right, to get back to what you were saying, you know what, man? They both my brothers, man. They really are, man. They both my brothers. We work with both of them a lot. We just put more music in Cases than Joe because we didn't get a chance to get back. It's weird how that happened, man. Because the guy that was managing Joe at the time, he was like, I don't know, man. That's too poppy, man. He was like, too poppy. He was like, yeah, go to another song. So that's when we went to Ghetto Romance, right?
Okay.
But to get to your point, man, when when he heard Case was gonna come with a single, all of a sudden he calls back and he was like, hey man, what happened, man? I paid y'all for that, man. We was like, yeah, but you said you didn't like it, man. You said it was too pop. He was like, I never said that. I'm like, yes, you did, man. He said I never said that, man. He said Ghetto Romance and Missing You was too pop. So what happened was he called him and Leor made a deal that Case can release his in the States first, and Joe can release his in England, and they was number one at the same time.
Mm.
So Joe's was number one in London and in England over there,
Yeah.
and Cases was number one here.
But
It's
Case has
crazy,
got, yeah,
man.
the bigger market and uh oh, so is it a case where I mean, did he hear Case's version and thought, oh, actually the song is actually better than I thought, or what would you think?
You know what? I have no idea, man. I just know that we recorded it on Joe at first, and then the A&R for Def Jam heard it and was like, after I after I showed, because it was just like how Thong Song was, like that was the first one on a dat, right? So then when I went to 8 songs, they was like, go back. Let me hear what you just played. That first one you just played. So I played it. Now I think he was having reminiscing on Faded Pictures that him and Joe did together. So when he heard Joel's voice, he was like, "Hey man, I think I want that one, man. I want that one to be the first one y'all record on Case." So we was
Mm.
like, "Okay." He was like, he called Case, and Case was there the next day, man. Case was
Yeah.
hoarse and everything, man. So, but we put him in the booth anyway. That's why when he said I can't sing no more, he was really serious, man.
Wow.
Because he was hoarse, man. When he got off the plane, he couldn't even talk. He was, hey, what's up, man? How y'all
So
doing?
when he says he
He
can't
was
sing,
talking
no,
like that,
and
man.
you kept it on the record.
So no, so what we did is he when he heard it, he was like, you know what? Let me give it a go, man. Let me see what I sound like. So he ended up doing it, and then when his voice went out, he was like, I can't sing no more. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna keep that, man. So
Wow.
I kept it. I just kept it, man. When we was mixing it, I just kept it up because we did a lot of takes, you know what I mean? But
Mm.
then when he said I can't sing no more, it was so in pocket. I was like, you know what? That might work, man. I'm like, that might work for a lot of reasons because he said I can't sing no more, meaning that I'm missing you so bad that I
Yeah,
can't even
yeah, yeah,
sing no more about you.
yeah,
So it was a twofold thing, you know what I
yeah,
mean? I was
yeah.
like, he can't sing no more. He literally can't sing anymore. And then he missing the person so bad that he can't sing no more. So I was like, let's just keep it because it's in pocket, man. And I kept it and it worked.
You know what? Daryl Simmons, when I interviewed him, he said the same thing when they recorded End of the Road with Boyz II Men that Wanye had lost his voice, and but they needed to record the vocals that night to send it in for the soundtrack. And at the end, he says, "Help me out, fellas." That I'm. He was dying. He says, "Help me out, help me out." That was him saying, "Look, guys, I can't take it no more. Help me out." And they kept that in. That was really him. So when you said the same thing with the case part, I guess it's like, wow, yeah. I mean, and I think that's the thing we talk about. What you guys were doing is that you were able to capture the vulnerability of men. A lot of people talked about the track you did with Dave Hollister. Um, was it Come Home?
Take care of home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Dave
yeah.
is bad, man. Dave is one, man. He one of the baddest singers I ever worked with, man. Matter of fact, he has so many ideas and runs, man. Is that you almost have to tell him, man. You almost have to tell him, man, like that's too much.
Wow.
Like he did so much creative stuff, man. I'm like the regular person listening to it, man, ain't gonna understand that run that you just did. Like I get it because I'm from church, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm like the regular person listening to music, man, ain't gonna understand that, man. So when we did that whole album, I think that album, so I got it over there, but when that album, when that whole album, we had to tell him, man, hey, man, Dave, that's too much, man. That's too much. I think you're doing a little too much, man. They ain't gonna understand that, man. And
Wow.
then some of them we kept, you know, if it was like later on the track, you know what I mean, or something like that, we'd keep it. But you know, right at the beginning, we was like, it was like wrestling a little pig at first, man. Because he's so talented, man. He could do anything, man. And he was so creative, man. Like he would just come up with something, man. Like Joe's the same way. Joe, Case, you know, all them guys, man. They
Mm.
be coming up with stuff just so creatively, man. You like, okay, I like it, but the regular listener, man, they not gonna understand it, man.
And is this
I hate to
from
say it, man.
was but
Let's
this
do
is
that on the
what
end.
was this from what you learned from L.A. Reid about not doing too much? Was it if you hadn't listened to L.A., would you have just put it in?
Probably, man. I probably, yeah, yeah. But LA, I just always it just was always just twinkling in my head, man. I'm like of LA saying, "Hey, man, don't have them just singing all over the track because you know if you think about it, man, if you think about it, music is simple, man. Music is just like this. It's like if if you try to get to the if you try to tell somebody how to get to the grocery store, you ain't saying that. All right, you know what? There's gonna be a there's a big pit right there. There's gonna be a pit bull. You're gonna have to run across the street, and then like you know the rocks is kind of weird right there, and then that throws them all off, man, to the trail. You know what I mean? So music is supposed to be simple, man. It's like you know simple directions, man. It's like here's the verse, here's the hook, here's the verse, and here's the bridge, and then the out. You know what I mean? And you want to make it like that so people understand, you know what I mean? The greats that came before us, Gamble and Huff, you know what I mean? They just created that, man. You know what I mean? Like even the guys that did the Beatles is like,
Yeah.
this is the hook, this is the hook, this is the verse right here, this is the hook second verse, then here come the hook again, and then you know what I mean? but you can't. But they won't know that if they singing all over it.
So then,
The,
if you
the the
think
regular
about,
audience wouldn't even understand that. You know what I mean?
so did you apply that when you were doing Boys to Men?
You know what? There was an exception to the rule, though. I will say that.
Okay.
Because they started off that way. They started off ad libbing and doing all them crazy runs and stuff like that. Cause Sean and Wanye, man, they be coming up with some crazy stuff too, man. So you just got sometimes you just gotta let them loose, or you just gotta strategically place it, man, and
Yeah.
just right, because you gotta let them get it all out, man. You know what I mean?
But the reason I was asking that is that because if you think about, they sold more records than Jodeci, and KC would do all the runs and everything. So, and I was wondering why you think Boys to Men, they'll sell 20 plus million on their two album, while for Diary of a Mad Band did about 5 million. They came out the
Right.
same time. So, but do you think because they kept it simple and they made songs that were more accessible to a bigger market?
Hold on, man. So I won't lose you, man. I'm finna plug you in, all right?
Okay.
Hold up.
So I was thinking about when you think about the songs you did for Boys to Men, their album two sold 20 plus million, but
Right.
Jodeci, Diary of a Madman, did maybe 3 to 4 million. And I'm wondering when you talk about, because KC will always do with the runs and everything, and those of us, those who are really from the church, were like, yeah, we can recognize that. But Boys to Men did sang, this, they felt like their music was a lot more accessible to a wider audience than say a Jodeci. But what was your take? So do you think the rule that LA was telling about keeping it simple applied to the Boys to Men, that made sure that they were a lot more exposed to a wider audience and diverse audience compared to what Jodeci were doing?
Yeah, because if you think about it, Jodeci stuff was more urban, you know what I mean? And Boys to Men was leaning more towards like pop, like the second and third album. Like if you think of the End of the Road, uh, to the end of,
Hmm.
on the first one, go back and listen to it, man. You don't hear no ad libs on that. That's how Babyface, that's how he produced, man. So that was like more of like a pop way of producing, man. You know what I mean? That
Mm.
was that was a way of like crossover producing. Put it that way.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like don't let them ad lib on the first hook. It's like because it'll get it on the radio quicker if you do that.
Mm.
So, but Jodeci did a lot of ad libs anywhere. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Which there was some crazy songs that they did,
Yeah,
like
yeah, 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 yeah.
you know what I'm saying, "Forever My Lady" and
Yeah, Cry
let's
for
see,
Me and
cry,
Feeling and yeah, yeah. Come and
man,
talk to me,
"Cry for."
stay. Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, man. To this day, "Cry for You" is one of my favorite songs. Point blank.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
I know I know Devontae, and I always tell him that when I see him, man. I'm like
yeah,
him and
even
Dalvin. I'm like, hey, man, you know what? 'Cause remember that Dalvin album we did? We did it together.
no, I'm gonna get to, because I've had Dalvin on my show twice, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, so he knows I'm a big fan of his and stuff. But and when I did ask him what's his favorite Jodeci track, he says "Cry for You" is his favorite track for Jodeci. But I just wondered about, is that but when you guys are producing for Boys to Men, are you thinking? No, I don't think. Are you thinking crossover? Are you thinking keeping it simple so that more people can access it?
Yeah,
Okay, okay,
absolutely, man. Thinking like, you know what? This is a group that's a crossover group. Because if you think about it, man, go back and think about like all the artists like I don't know, Janet, Michael Jackson.
yeah.
Um,
Lionel Richie, I guess.
if you think about, yeah, Lionel Richie too. If you think about it, man, when they came out with the first single, man, where did they go? Who did they come to first? What was the song sounding like first? It
Mm.
was urban at first. Think about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Michael Jackson, man, like Billie Jean, that was the R&B song.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? It just crossed over because of the way it was produced. If you
mm,
think about All For You was first. That was more urban.
mm,
It was more. it leaned more towards urban, and then it crossed over. If you think about it,
Yeah.
so it's a certain way you do urban records like that you know you can have them cross over too. The vocals, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
You think of All For You, man. Janet ain't doing a lot of ad libs on that.
Mm.
Billie Jean, man. Mike ain't doing a lot of ad libs on that record, man. Like, go back and think, like when we done, man, go back and listen to him, man.
Yeah, now do. And I think
It's
that's
like,
that. Yeah, because you think about Aaron Hall, that was something that sort of kept him in a small lane because he was always doing the sort of ad libs and stuff, and it felt as if that yeah. So his but when he did I Miss You, he didn't do a lot of the ad libs on I Miss You. He kept it simple, and that became his
yeah,
biggest single.
that was a
So
bad record. That was a dope record too, man.
yeah, so
I
yeah,
Miss You. That
yeah,
was incredible, man.
yeah.
That was an incredible record. But yeah, man, you know, man, that's just, you know, I mean, man, we didn't make the rules. We didn't come up with it. That's just the way it is, man. If you listen to pop records, man, that's just the way it is. It's like less is more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. With Dalvin, um, and I did ask him about this because um, he didn't sing, he didn't do much singing on with Jodeci. He only got to do Get On Up was the one single that they released that he produced. He says he said Devante didn't like it, so he didn't even show up in the video when Get On Up was
Get
released
on up.
because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, he didn't
Devontae.
like it, so he didn't even show up in the video shoot. But then you're coming to produce his album, big album for Madonna's label, and it doesn't do as well as you probably think because there's a lot of stuff in there. You later on became an executive behind the scenes. What do you think went wrong with Dalvin's album? That is it the title, because which was hard to pronounce? What do you think sort of affected that taking off?
You know what? It's just some albums, man, that the public is ready for and they're not. I think his album was kind of a little ahead of his time. If it came out like, you know, maybe like a year afterwards, I think that people would have got it. I think that, like, you know, the way he dressed and all that stuff, he was starting a different type of style, you know what I mean? That just be yourself and just
Yeah,
be who you are, you know what I mean? It's
okay.
like when you seen that album cover, man, it wasn't a regular looking album cover where it's just like a portrait of somebody's face and then that's it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like he had himself painting and all that. It's like that
yeah.
probably threw people off, man, and then get a chance to really get into the music because that's really a good album, man.
Yeah. And I wonder if he had kept it similar to a Jodeci sound starting off with and then going into the other direction, maybe that might would have made a difference. Um, but why did you decide to move to the back office to become an executive? I think that's as a head of A&R and a label executive.
Man, you do your homework, man. You do your homework, man. You know what happened, man? Here's what happened. Like, when, let me go back to me and Bob. Okay, so everybody think that it was a bad breakup with me and Bob, man. It ain't, man. He my brother, man. He really is, man. I'll do anything for him, man. That's my brother, and you know, it was a thing where just like just like if it was two brothers, man. If one see like, man, I want to try this right here, man, and then another brother be like, nah, you know what? I still want to do this. That's what that was, man. It's like he wanted to do something else, and I still wanted to do mainstream. You know what I mean? I'm a mainstream dude, man. I
Mm,
can't help it. That's how I was born that way, man. You know what I mean?
mm,
So still, I'm producing right now. I'm doing mainstream records, man.
mm.
Like 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 developing and on and on. I love it, man. And you know what? No knock on nobody. If they want to do something different, go ahead. You know what I mean? Like I don't knock that, man. I don't knock what he did at all. But you know, I still want to do mainstream, man. So so what happened is Brian McKnight called me, man, right? He called me from Japan. And he was like, hey man, he was like, I'm signed to a major, man. I'm like, you are? I said, I thought you didn't like major labels, man. He was like, he said, well, you know what? It is a label. He said, they got Universal. He said, it's SRG
Oh,
slash Universal.
SRG. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay. So he was like, so we got all of the support of Universal, man. I was like, oh, okay. That's dope. And then he was like, hey, man, I want you to do my whole next album. And I'm like,
Everything. Wow.
everything, man. Let me see. I think, do I got it up here? I
It's
got I got the whole thing somewhere.
okay. So
But a lot of people didn't even get a chance to hear it, man. I think it's pretty good. I did the whole thing. But anything what happened is he came back and I did the whole thing, right? So then it was crazy, man. The executive from SRG, he was like, hey, what you did is incredible on Brian, man. Like, I'm like, who is this, man? So I'm thinking it was the mastering dude that helped, because I had to talk to him a lot while I was doing the album, right? Because Brian was going out of town doing gigs, so he would leave the master when I finished it, mix it and all that stuff, he would leave it at his house, and I had to go all the way out there and give it to the mastering dude, right? So I thought it was the mastering dude at first. He was like, hey man, you're gonna be a big part of this company, man. I was like, I said, yeah, thanks, man. He's like, no, I'm dead serious, man. And I was like, I said, who is this, man? He was like, you don't know who, he said, by how I'm talking, man, you don't know who this is, man? And then I was like, nah, I don't. So then he was like, so then he left it at that. He didn't say nothing. So the whole day went by. Next day, he was like, I'm Claude that own the whole label, man. How would you like to be head of A&R? And I was like, head of A&R? I'm like, let me think about it. I knew I wanted to do it, but I was like, let me think about it for a second. And then he came back and said, you know what? You could be head of A&R and you could sign anybody you want, man. He said, you can sign anybody you want, man. He said, we'll just give you a title of head of A&R. But really, I ran the whole company, man. You know what I mean? But, you know what I mean? When I started doing whole albums, like Sean got an album that came out. I did his whole album. Brian, I did 2 whole albums on him. Raheem Devine, I did 2 albums before he left, but I did like the singles, Just Right. That did pretty good. Just Right, and another one that I did. But I don't know, man. It just didn't feel, it felt like, you know what? I need to be running my own label, man. You know what I mean? I'm like, I got enough knowledge now because I got a lot of intel from Jam Lewis and LM Babyface and people like Quincy Jones and all that. I'm like, you know what? This don't. It's like something missing, man. It's like I'll ask somebody, have they heard it? And they said, nah, I haven't heard that. But yeah, to be number one on Heart and Soul, you know what I mean? I'm like, how they not hearing this, man? I'm like, man, there's something missing, man. So I was like, you know what? I think it's better that I just go on my own and just create my own thing. So that's why I got my own. I got 2 labels right now, matter of fact. And you'll be hearing something from us soon.
So, but how long were you with SRG? Because I think a lot of us have seen the sign After Seven, Shaka Khan, I think Ruben Studdard. So they'll be signing a lot of sort of, you know, why did you, how long did you stay in that role before you decided to step down?
Like, man, I was in that role for maybe like I don't know, 5 or 6 years,
Okay.
maybe. Yeah.
How did you manage? Were you still producing and doing the executive stuff, or did you have to strip back from the producing?
No, I was producing. Like I said, I was doing the whole album. Yeah.
Okay, okay,
And a lot of
okay.
them songs was going number one, man. Like Brian had a couple number one records. Bobby had a number one record. Sean, I did a song called "Feeling a Little Something" with Sean. That went number one, but it was only going R&B, and that was it. And it wouldn't cross over. So that's why I was like, I mean, I'm doing all the tricks of the trade. How come it's not going over to the other chart?
And what do you think was the
It was
reason?
only staying on the R&B chart. So you know, it's only so many people that's gonna hear
Here,
R&B, man. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I was like, yeah, you know, let me just get my own label, man. And that's why everybody was like, hey, man, did you sign Layla Hathaway? I'm like, I ain't even over there no more, man. He doing his
Okay,
own thing now. So
okay.
Layla Hathaway,
Yeah,
let's
the
see,
Shaka
Kiki
Khan.
Wyatt,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Shaka
After
Khan.
after
Yeah,
7. Yeah.
I left right before After Seven got signed.
Okay.
Right when they got signed is when I left because me and Kevon is really cool. And Kevon told me, Kevon, you know what? Matter of fact, I left right during the album. Because when Kevon got signed, Kevon was like, hey man, because we did Kevon too, me and Bob did. He was like, hey man, I need some of that magic from you, man. I'm like, okay, I got you. And then that's when I left, right in the middle. I
Okay.
was just about to work on them too.
Oh.
Let me see who else was over there. That made there's another artist over there, man. Kenny. What's Kenny's last name? That was married to Shantae Moore.
Oh, Lattimore, Kenny Lattimore. Yes,
Yeah,
Kenny
Kenny
Lattimore.
Lattimore. My
Yeah,
fault. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
Kenny.
No, no,
Yeah,
that's right.
Kenny's a good friend of mine too because I had an artist that he was managing. So
Okay.
Kenny, I was going over to Kenny's crib before I had my stroke. I was going up there to Kenny and he was showing me some of the records that he was doing. I'm like, wow, man.
Wow.
But I already knew that when he was showing me some really good stuff and he wanted me to jump in, but I was like, it ain't gonna do nothing, man. Because it's an element that's missing in that label, man, that I just couldn't quite put my finger on, man. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Because I interviewed Angie Stone just before they released her album on the label, and it unfortunately it didn't make it a dent. Even the After Seven, because I interviewed After Seven when they came, and I loved their album because they I got their album. Beautiful songs. Kevon's probably one of the greatest singers out there, but I don't know how well the label is pushing the album
That's
and the
exactly what it
music.
is. You know what? It's the old adage, man. It holds true, man. Because I kept trying to tell the guy that had the label, I was like, you know what? It takes money to make money, man. You're going to have to
Mm,
spend some money, man. For people like you, way in England, I'm
mm.
like, how are you going to hear it if you don't spend the money for it to get over there to you? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
It's got to get for it to get to the masses. You got to spend some money, man.
yeah.
That's just the way it is. You know what I mean?
So then what's going
I
to be
know you want
different?
to rob Peter to pay Paul, man, but you got to spend some money, man.
Yeah, it's true.
He didn't want to. You know the problem is he didn't want to spend the money. He have a great album, man, but it wasn't no marketing and promotion behind it, man. So
Mm.
all them albums I was doing, then you don't even know. Like I just telling you about Brian McKnight, you looking at me like I'm crazy, man. You
Yeah,
probably never even heard of him. And I did
no.
the whole when I say I did the whole album, the whole thing, mixed it and all. So it
Mm.
sounded like a Tim and Bob production. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I could show you some stuff. You'll be like, dang, man. And it
wow.
went number one on Heart and Soul. That was it though. Because Heart and Soul is an R&B station. Never crossed over because the crossover you would have to spend like 50,000, another 100,000. You know what
Wow.
I mean? It's like he didn't want to do that. So
Wow.
there it
So,
is.
so
Think
then,
about it, man.
mhm.
Think about it, man. You be hearing about these artists that signed on SRG,
Yeah.
but what's done anything?
I mean, they'll go on the
There's nothing on.
Tamar Hall show or Sherry Shepherd's show. They'll go on there, do some show songs, and then that you see them. They'll promote it that way. But yeah, you won't really hear it on radio and stuff.
But no, you don't. Yeah, you don't hear it on the radio. No crossover. It ain't on nothing, man. It's like a boutique. He, it's a boutique label, but it's like just because you're boutique label don't mean you got to run it like a boutique label.
Mm,
You know what I mean? You got Universal behind you, man. You could just ask them for some money. They'll give it to you to market and promote it, man.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, you know, if you want the label the be real lucrative, man, you know what I mean? Then I mean the artist on the label is gonna have to sell. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what about
That's
your own?
why, you know,
Okay.
that's why LaFace was so big. That's why Motown was so big. Because
Yeah.
all of them artists, man, they all popped off.
Yeah.
Think about
Even
Motown. Think about Motown, man. So many artists popped off and it crossed over.
yeah. Even Bad Boy. Um. You
Bad
know.
Boy too. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about your own label then? So what are we? What is your label name and what should we expect from it?
Okay. One of them is called B Cave Entertainment, and the other one is called Lava Rocks Music Group. Um, So I'm gonna be doing something with like Universal and Def Jam. I kind of got it on the wraps a little bit because I want to wait till it manifests,
Okay. Okay.
um, but I really got some good stuff going on, man, and I can't wait for everything to come to do what it do. You know what I mean? I can't wait, man. I can't.
What?
I want to say I want to tell you so bad,
No, no,
but
that's
it's
fine.
like it's a lot of things that's like swaying this way, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that I can go over this way too. So it's like
Okay.
I don't want to say something and then I went this way
Yeah, that's
and I
fine.
gave you the wrong information. So I
Yeah.
want you to come back to me again,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I have the next time you interview me, I'll
Yeah.
have it down packed in about a month or two. You know what I mean?
Okay. Why
I'll
two
really
different
have it
labels?
down.
Why two different labels? How come is there a reason for two different ones?
Yeah, because I think on one I'm gonna do more crossover, rhythm crossover pop.
Okay.
And then one of them is gonna be like R&B music where I really just funk out and see what happens. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Okay.
So
And okay. And you got some artists.
yeah. I got some artists right now. Um, I got You know what? I'll tell you what. The next time you interview me, I'm gonna tell you all about it, man.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I really am, man. It's just that I'm just in the I'm in the experiment mode right now.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'm in the mode of like, should I keep them? Should I let them go? I'm
Uh,
doing, you know what I mean? So if I say the name right
yeah. Yeah.
now,
Yeah. Yeah.
in two
Yeah.
or 3 weeks, they might not even be on my label. You know what I'm saying?
So what's the difference between being a label now? Because back in the day was different if you're on a label. So for you, what is the difference between being a label owner now? Is it the fact that you can do all the music and then you're using your name to push it out? So what does the label do now, especially an independent label?
Um, well, let me see. Well, number one thing, you'll be able to do it from based on what your knowledge that and the wisdom that I've had with Tim and Bob all the way. I know what to do now. So it's like I can do whatever I want. I
Mm,
got my own creative control. You know what I mean? I just need just like a parent company like Universal, Warner Brothers, or something like that to help me out.
okay.
I already know what the rest to do. That's the problem with R. So that's the problem with R&B right now. It's like it's still there, but you got people that don't know what they're doing, man. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like man, they hired their cousin, they hired their like best friend, something like that. Man, you know what? You really need people that's tried and proven in this thing and really know what they're doing, man. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? And then, you know, if you think about this, I ain't knocking nobody, man, but it's like if you start in R&B, how you end up, you know, doing other albums when you can employ so many people. There's so many people that do R&B that's out of a job right now. Why are you doing country music, man? You know what I mean? Just because you can don't mean you should be doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
That's just like just because you can steal this from a story, don't mean you should do it. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I don't know, man. That's just me.
Okay, that's right.
That's just me, man. If you do R&B, do R&B. If you do pop, do pop. If you Why are you doing country music and you're an R&B person? That don't make any sense. so many people is out of a job because of you. If you come back, you'll make the genre pop all over again if you would just come back and do what you do. Why
Mm,
would you go and make another genre bigger than it already is, man? Than as opposed to where you came from. That don't
mm,
make any sense.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. That's my. I
It's it's it's
mean,
it's it is it definitely isn't an opinion. So we
that's
should
my.
be.
Yeah, it's a lot of ways to look at it, man. But it's like if you think about it, man, I'm making sense, man. Like think about this, man. Why would you build? Like, why would you build this house, man, and then leave? It don't make any sense. Why would you build the house and then just leave it to somebody else? I
Yeah.
don't get that.
Yeah, as I
I
said, yeah, I think one of the things that you realize is that some of these big stars tend to now need controversy to help with their sales,
yeah,
um, more so than, so Taylor Swift will start dating somebody and they date somebody, and then all of a sudden the attention's on her and then her music. Um, I know Beyonce put out the dance album, then she put out the country album, and I pretty much said, look, I stopped listening since after Sasha Fierce. I think that was one of her best albums. That's
sure
uh
was. It was.
that she really that was one of her best albums, and I wish she goes back to doing stuff like that, that kind of R&B, that
Oh
kind
man,
of
I wish the heck, man. You know what I mean? That would happen, man.
yeah,
She would employ. I mean, she would employ so many people back, man. Cause a lot, you know what? I talk to a lot of dudes, a lot of R&B dudes, man, and they're like, nah, I'm just gonna wait till this just blow over, man. What
yeah,
they saying and basically saying, like, you know what I mean? I'm just gonna wait because what's the use anyway? It ain't gonna do anything
mm,
because the big labels, they're not gonna put no a lot of money into it.
mm,
If so, why am I just give why am I giving these big records away when I could just live off my publishing? Like
yeah,
Teddy Riley, he did everybody in the world. So his publishing is crazy. So he
mm,
like, why I'm gonna do this right here? Why I'm gonna do this and I know it ain't gonna do nothing, man, and tarnish my name when I
mm,
could just live off my publishing for a minute.
yeah,
That's what a lot of producers are saying, man. I'm telling you, man. It's weird.
yeah. But then I
It's the
do.
weird weather out here right now with this R&B.
But are you still producing? So, I mean, I don't know how many acts are really signed to big labels anymore, but are you still getting calls from the labels to do tracks for?
Yeah, a lot. I'm getting a lot of man. Matter of fact, I'm getting more calls than I've ever got this year, man. I'm telling you, man. I got like about like 15 projects right now, and you'll
Wow.
be you'll be hearing about them in just a minute because I,
Okay.
I got to finish all of them. I'm right in the middle of it. Like I'll start some and then I'll go to another one. I'll go to another one. You know what I
Wow.
mean? So I got a lot of them that's about to come out,
Wow.
and I'm doing it for because I love it. You know what I mean? I would do it for free because I love what I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like it ain't no assurance that you got somebody behind it. I love this, man. Let me put this much into it. Let
Yeah.
me put that much into it. I don't have that assurance, man.
Yeah.
Whereas back in the day, 2 million was going gold was nothing. Going platinum was a disappointment. Going 2 million was even a disappointment, man. Think
Mm.
about it back in the day, man. If you think about it, SWV, TLC, Boys and Men, all of them was selling, man,
Mm.
crazy records, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
What happened? The question is, what happened?
Yeah.
It's because
Well,
labels stopped putting all their money, man. When this sing rap stuff came out,
yeah.
it didn't take that much money to market and promote it,
Yeah. Yeah.
as
And
opposed to like, you got to fly a whole group and put them all
mm,
up and all that.
yeah.
Costs a lot of money if it's 5 people in one group.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's a hotel room, 5 people. They five got to eat. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's on and per diem.
Yeah.
So
And
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
and I think they pushed Billboard to merge hip hop and R&B as a
Yeah,
genre. And I said you won't go and do
yeah, because
country
that's
and
one chart,
rock.
right?
Yeah, you won't do country and rock charts, but you do
Exactly.
you take you take two separate forms of music and make them into one chart, but you wouldn't do country and rock top 100, but you do that with hip hop and R&B. They're two different music sounds, different audience, but yet they merged it, and then that's when there was a massive deficit with R&B, and then labels, as I said, took that step of we're not going to invest in it, and we're not fed great music.
You know what, man? I'm glad you made me think of that because I know some people at Billboard, man, and I know a lot of people on the Grammy board too, man. That's one thing I'm gonna bring up right there. I'm glad you mentioned that right there because it's like that's when everything started messing up.
Yeah, when they submerged the two charts, and then
How you
they
got hip? How you
yeah
got hip hop merged with R&B? That's
yeah
two different genres,
two
man.
different genres. Country and rock music are two different genres, but they wouldn't put the
Two
two
different
together.
genres, man.
They wouldn't put the two together, so it makes no sense, and you forced labels, radio stations to play one or the other, and then you know, um, but it's the messaging.
You
The
got a
one thing
major point
that
right.
Tim
You
and
got a
Bob,
major point right there, man.
yeah, the one thing
Because
that
like
go ahead,
it's like R&B singers supposed to sing, not
yeah,
rap. So
yeah,
now you got rappers want to sing, and then you
yeah,
got singers that want to rap. It's like it's messed up, man. It's
yeah.
crazy, man. It's
But the
like,
one,
dude,
yeah,
it's like master one or the other, man, or
yeah.
something, man.
But the messages are different. A hip hop artist would talk about, will have a very different messaging, like country music will. But what you guys were doing in R&B, it was a very centered on love, about relationships, about talking about what's going on. And hip hop had a very different story and a very different thing that they're highlighting. So even the two messages were separate, but they were pushed them together. Because if you listen to country music, it's a lot about, heartache and love and men's and relationships. Rock has a
Absolutely.
very different type of thing. So the fact that they merged them together, it's very unfair for the black community. But
Because
unfortunately, yeah,
you know what? Let me add on to what you're saying, man. It's crazy what you're saying right there. That's really a good point. Because if you think of R&B, you think it's rhythm and blues, right?
yeah,
So R&B come from church. It come from blues. It come from a
yeah,
lot of stuff. It's like so when you think about that, you think about love. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
And then you can't catch a rapper talking about love, man.
Oh, yeah, no.
It's like if they talk about love, they think that like they're gonna looked down upon.
Yeah,
I mean, you
yeah,
love your mama, don't you?
yeah,
You love your girlfriend. How
mm,
come you can't talk about it?
yeah.
If you think about
Yeah,
it, man, you don't hear none of them talking about, man, how much they love somebody, man. Love is out the question. Throw that out. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
It's how many champagne bottles I can
yeah,
pop,
yeah. We're very
and how
materialist. Yeah,
long I was at the club, and how many girls I
yeah,
pushed up on at the club, and how
yeah.
many cars I got, my big house, and all this crap. It's like that's cool, man. But what about love though?
But then see what are our kids listening to? So Sexy Red and Drake and all these guys singing about material stuff. So that's then becomes the center of what our kids are listening to and gravitating to. But we're not listening to and I mentioned, I said about you, what Tim and Bob were really good at were showing the vulnerability in men singing these love songs. Bobby
And you know
singing
what, man?
Forever.
That's what we stood on. That's what we stood on, man. That was. You know what? We was doing that without doing it because it's like when you understand like where music
Mm,
comes from. It's like it comes from the heart,
yeah.
and what's in the heart reaches the heart. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? It's like love, man, is a universal language, man.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
like if you start talking about love, everybody know about love. You
Yeah.
love your because everybody love your mom or your wife
Yeah.
or your girlfriend that you've been with for a minute.
Yeah.
Everybody knows about that or want to be in love.
Yeah.
All women want to be in love, man. Why are you excluding women, man? Why are you not talking about that when they all want to be in love? It don't make any
Yeah.
sense, man.
Yeah. But if
They
what
long to be like that, man. They learn from their family they want to be in love, just like their aunt and their uncle.
yeah.
They mother and their dad, whatever, man. And it's taboo to talk about these days, man. It's crazy, man.
But if you think about the black artists who have the loudest say, they're female rappers like Megan or Sexy Red or Nicki Minaj and stuff, and they're not singing about love. They're singing, they're teaching young girls a very sexual, explicit type of relationship, type of getting, and then the men are talking about wealth and money and or stuff like that. So when I grew up listening to a Donnell or Maxwell or Luther or Teddy Pendergrass and listening to people singing about love and being positive,
Oh, you threw Luther in there, man. Luther
yeah,
was,
but yeah.
hey, Luther was so bad, man. Can we just stop for a second and talk about him, man?
Okay,
Man, the
good.
other side of the world, man. So amazing. Me and Bob used to play
Mm.
them at weddings, man. Everybody want to hear a Luther song, man.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
a bad dude, man.
yeah,
Golly.
yeah, yeah. But yeah,
Rest
I
in
mean,
peace, man.
yeah,
But man,
vocally, yeah,
you know what? We don't have nobody, man, that's like take charge R&B artists like that no more. We just don't. If we do, we got like one or two, but it's like back then we had more, man, that was talking about love and R&B. You know what I mean? Like R&B music, like real R&B.
yeah,
And if it
yeah,
crossed over, it crossed over. But they was really talking about like real good R&B music, man. Like that's all we want to hear about, man. That's all. You know what I mean? That's why
yeah,
you always reach back for Al Green or like a Earth, Wind and Fire, or when you want to hear some R&B music.
yeah,
The 80s and the 90s
yeah,
when
yeah,
we like you said when we was doing that is because you know people still want to hear about love, man.
yeah, yeah,
We're
yeah,
not giving them what they want, man. What they think they want. We're not giving it to them, man. We dancing around it. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
But what
That's the
about you
problem
though?
right
Is
now.
that what you, I mean, as a producer now, is that what, are you focused on that now or
Yeah,
what?
that's exactly what I'm focused on, man. Is bringing love back, man. Because that's what the problem is with kids too right now. You know what I mean? Is we grew think about it, me and you, we grew up on Earth, Wind and Fire, Can Function, on and on and on. They had a especially the Isley brothers, man.
Mm.
And we worked on Ron. I love Ron, man. But what I'm saying is they talk in their slow songs, they talk about love, man.
Yeah, yeah,
And so
yeah,
we grew up on like them type of records, man.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like Lay Me Down Easy, Sensuality, part one and part two,
Mm.
Cooling Me Out, I don't know, Love's Holiday, all in. We grew up on that.
Yeah,
Now you don't hear them type of records no more, man. If you
yeah,
do, if you do, they're far and few in between. So you don't you
yeah,
so you'll hear and then you'll hear five other records that don't sound like that. So you forgot about it. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
crazy, man.
and I don't know who are the male singers. I mean, I know about her and Leila James and Mia Long and Scissor and Jasmine Sullivan. They all sound alike. If you don't, they sound alike. I can barely tell them apart. Very different back in the day. I could listen to Coco and realize she was different from hearing Di Reed or all these females, Mary, Faith Evans. They all had very distinct, separate voices and styles of singing. Today, the female artists all sound very similar tone and sing in a particular tone where it's really hard to separate if you don't really know them. And males, like I don't know which male singers out there now that has any, you know, how can
You know
Charlotte
it's
Will?
crazy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not, I'm sorry, man. Not to cut you off,
No, no, no.
but I'm working on Mary right now, right? So I told the label, man, I was like, Mary need to go back to that what's the 411 that first album she did. She need to go back to them first two albums, man. I'm like, she like to me, I think she too much trying to be like like these new artists when they're trying to be like her at the begin from the beginning. I'm like they're
Mm,
trying to be like you and with your first three albums, man. Why are
yeah,
you trying to be like that? Go
yeah,
back to that. Go back to the melodies and all that stuff.
yeah,
Do
yeah,
what
yeah,
you do.
yeah,
Talk what you talk.
yeah,
Stay
yeah,
stay who you are, man. Like,
Yeah.
like I don't know, man. And I'm not saying that she all the way doing that, but what I'm saying, if she thinking about that on this album, it's like, nah, man, I'm not turning in them records in. I'm not turning the type of records in. I'm turning in the records, man, that sound like her new album, but with a future sound to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That my fault. The older albums
The older
with
albums,
a
yeah.
with a future with a little bit of future in it. So
Yeah.
it's like kind of new, but then it's a nostalgic of like what she used to do. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
but Bruno Mars, everyone, he
Yeah,
came in, did a 90s stuff, then he went back and did a soulful stuff when he did the Silk Sonic.
he
He,
killed him
he
too, man.
yeah, but he went back to the genre of music that people loved and it worked out. And so you're thinking if he could do it, why can't we just it's very simple, we don't want what's going on now. Just go back to a time where it was a simple formula. It wasn't because of his race. It was the fact that he just went back and gave us a sound that most people identified with. But you don't
Yeah,
see anyone else taking that risk. Everyone's just playing safe and trying to be like Jasmine Solomon and all these people. But that's not pushing units. It's not selling.
yeah,
So, and
you're
then
absolutely right.
and which male artist is out there? I don't know any of them. I'm just named females. I don't know which male singers. Charlie Wilson's 3 weeks at number one. But but should he be? He's you should have somebody who's about 30 or 20 and that should be putting out some album songs that were like but challenging that, but there's no one. So there's a frustration that there's no
You know what?
R&B.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right what you're saying, man. If it is, it's only like one here, two there. You know what I mean?
But
It
who can
takes
you
it
name? Who
takes an
can you
arm
name then? Who can you name? Male
like
artist.
maybe Raheem Devon. You know what I mean? There's Raheem.
Okay,
There's
yeah.
let me see who else out there. Um, artist named Kenyon. Have you heard of him?
No.
That's my young brother, man.
Okay.
Bobby V still out there trying to make it happen. He just can't crack the code right now. There's a lot of artists trying, but this not radio won't give them a shot though. You know what I mean? Because they're too stuck on this, man. This rap, this trap stuff, man. They stuck on that, man. It's like, man, you know what? That came and went, man. There's another thing going on right now, man. People trying to get back to love, but they just don't know how to bridge it together, man. That's what it is, man. So it's up to the real producers to come from high, man, and come on
Mm,
out.
yeah.
Rodney Jerkins, come on. Devontae, come
Yeah.
back.
Come back, yeah.
Petty, come back. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yes. My goodness. Well,
Got to come back. Got to come back, man. It takes an army, man. Like I can't do it by myself. You know what I mean? You
yeah,
need an
no.
army of cats, man.
Yeah,
And it ain't
no.
no different from like the actual songs or the artists that want to sing the songs. If they're singing country and not R&B, it's like everybody gonna follow that because
Yeah.
they gonna think that that's it right there over there.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
as
I
I
need.
said, yeah.
Oh, that's what I need to be doing. Okay,
Yeah.
before you know it, everybody watch when you look
Yeah.
up next year. Before you look up, everybody gonna be doing country, man.
Yeah, but I think it's not good. I think, but even Beyonce stuff, we're not hearing much from it. Uh, Bruno Mars gave a template. No one's brave enough to do it. Um, but I think if she came out and did an R&B album, got and got some, Dave Hall, you get yourself, get Rodney, get really just almost reinvent some of the 90s and late 80s type of stuff.
Yeah, man. I think you know what? I think she would, man. If she did that, she would kill him.
Yeah,
Because you know what? It's just a lane that's just like nobody in there.
nobody's in there. Yeah, yeah,
Nobody in that lane, man.
yeah,
Nobody doing that music that we was doing, man. That was
yeah,
coming from the heart. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Nobody doing it.
yeah. That's definitely the case. Yeah,
They're not really doing it anymore. They just left the lane wide open. If
yeah,
she came back, it'll be like she did something brand new, man. She did it
yeah.
right now. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well, maybe she can
They'll be
re-sing
like,
some of those songs that she recorded when she was with the Dolls and see if those ones.
right, exactly.
But to Tim, before I leave, I always ask my guests that if you had to watch a movie because you're stuck in an elevator, what's your favorite all-time favorite movie that you'd always want to watch if you had at home or stuff like that?
My favorite movie, maybe I don't know, like Coming Back to America that Eddie Murphy did.
Okay.
Either
Okay.
that or The Count of Monte Cristo. I love that movie, man.
Oh, I don't think I've seen the kind of man.
Have you ever
Okay.
seen that with The
I
Count of Monte
think
Cristo?
I think they've
That,
remade it so many times, but I think I've seen one of them, but
the
okay.
latest one, man, was the best one.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
that's a good revenge movie, man. And
Okay.
it teaches you a lot about revenge too. When really, man, God said vengeance is mine. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like, through the whole thing, it's showing that. You know what I mean?
Okay. I
So I
mean,
think that's a real good movie, man, because you learn a lot of stuff. So
okay.
maybe them two Coming to America.
And the
You know what I
Count of
mean? I
Monte
love
Cristo.
that movie, and I love The Count of Monte Cristo. I love that too. Them two of my favorite movies, man.
What about all
And you know
time?
what?
Okay.
And you know what? I'm a movie. When I tell you I'm a movie head, man, because I like to watch the movies to hear the music. I'll be if you go back and listen to our music, man, I got a lot of the music. I got a lot of the music from samples from the movies, man.
Wow.
I would take the song right from the DVD, man. It's crazy. Take it right from the DVD and make it an R&B song, man.
Yeah, well, don't let
Crazy,
some,
man.
I'm sure the publishers are like, hey, which song is that so we can get our money back? So what about the
But you
all-time
know
favorite?
what?
Yeah.
I cut it up well though, man. I used to put the front in the back and the back in the
Okay.
front and all that old crazy stuff. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yes. No
So I would
copyright here.
so man, throw them off the scent a little bit, you know what I mean?
What about your all-time favorite song then? Not a Tim and Bob
Oh
song, but
man.
a song by any artist. Your favorite all-time song that you like. I mentioned mine is The Lady in My Life, Michael Jackson is my all-time favorite song. But for yourself.
That's a good one, man. That's a real good one. But I would have to say Sunshine from Alexander
Oh
Neal.
yes, you did say that. Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
That's got to be one. That's got to be my favorite song, man.
Mm.
When it come on, it sound because you know what? When I hear that, it sound brand new to me every time, man.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's how
It's
Lady
written. You know what? It's written so good, man.
Mm.
And it's like how they wrote it, man. They didn't write it in first person, man. They said cloudy was the day when sunshine came into my life. You know what I mean? She brought me so much joy. It's like they're talking in like third person. You know what I mean? But the way it's like poetry the way they wrote it, man.
Mm.
And then in the bridge they came back to first person. I can never give myself away because when I can never get away because when I touch it, yeah, I don't know, man. That record is just, man,
Okay.
it's an
Okay.
epitome.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
It's
but
an
that's good.
epitome of R&B, man. And you know
Yeah.
what? Cry for you too, man. Cry
Mm.
for you from Jodeci.
Yeah.
That is, man. That's another record too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
That's another
That's my
record.
favorite Jodeci record. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is a bad record, man.
Yeah.
Every time I hear that, I'll be like, man, I wish I would have had something to do with that, man. I wish I played something in there. What was Devontae thinking about, man? Dang, man.
Yeah, I remember
It's a
talking to Eddie
bad
F. Yeah,
joint, man.
yeah. Eddie F was saying that Devontae that he went back when they saw them, he had keyboards and he just was just music all over the place. Yeah.
Man, that's a bad record, man.
I always ask this for when I have producers as guests. If you had to pick your top five producers in no particular order, so if you said here's my five producers that I would say my top five. Who would you put in that top five?
Oh, I could put them in a row. I could put them together for you.
In order, okay, you can start from five to one then.
Let's start from five, okay? Five is maybe I don't know, like let me see, maybe Gamble and Huff.
Okay.
Even though they way up. Oh no, wait a minute, hold on, wait. Let me see. because Quincy is up there. So no, let me not put them in order, man,
Okay,
because
yeah,
that's
just
hard.
which five would
Quincy
be?
Quincy Jones, Jam and Lewis, Ellie and Babyface. That was, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Ellie and
yeah.
Babyface, Gamble and Huff, and who else I would say? Who will be in that other slot? Let me think. You know what? Who I'm gonna say, man? I just gotta go ahead and say it.
Who?
Timmy Bob.
Okay, okay,
We gotta
okay.
be in there somewhere, man.
No, no, but this is no,
Come
no.
on, man.
Yeah, this is your favorite outside of you guys. So
Okay,
yeah.
outside of us, okay. Outside of us, I would have to put who else in that? Either Devontae or Rodney Jerkins, man.
Okay.
Probably and Teddy, I'm forgetting Teddy too, man.
Yeah, for
Teddy
Teddy.
Riley too, man. I gotta put Teddy's in the top. He gotta be in the top five, man. Because he's the first one that merged hip hop and R&B together, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was the first one that was making you love R&B, making you love slow songs, man.
Yeah,
They
Peace of
was
My Love,
knocking
make you
like up
last for
tempos,
yeah,
man.
make you last forever. That's still a big hit now.
That's
Make you
got
last.
booty on it too, man. It's knocking, man, like a up tempo, man. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I would have to put Teddy, yeah, Teddy, like I said, Teddy, Quincy, Jam and Lewis, Ellie and Babyface, Gamble and Huff, right there. That's the
Okay.
five.
Okay. Okay.
I I got that's got to be the five right there. And then honorable mention got to be like
Honorable mention. Yeah.
Devontae and Rodney Jerkins, man, because Rodney did a lot of dope stuff too, man,
Yeah.
and Devontae did too. They
Yeah.
did some stuff you can't deny, undeniable, man.
Yeah.
You know what I
But
mean?
as a producer, where do you put somebody like R. Kelly for what he was doing as a
R. Kelly,
songwriter?
no, I mean, man, Art. You see what I'm saying? It's hard to say top
Yeah.
five, man. You got to say top 10 because he got to be in the top. R. Kelly's in the top 10, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some would argue that he top five
Yeah, I think he gets overlooked because he
because of what he done. You know what I mean?
no, but I think because of the fact that he did a lot of his own stuff. But but as when you think about the songs he did for himself, I don't think people, because he was an artist and produced for others, I think they focus so much on his music and forget all the people he produced for. So if you think
Right.
about, yeah,
Remember that record he did for Michael Jackson, You're Not Alone?
yeah,
God,
yeah, the first album on Billboard history to go straight to number one. So that
man,
that
that
was a
was
record that never,
crazy,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
You're Not Alone.
yeah,
I don't know what he did with Celine Dion. That was dope.
yeah, yeah. You're my
What he did
angel.
for High
Yeah,
Five.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah. But he did stuff for Whitney. He did stuff for Mary. Yeah, yeah. What about um? But when you think about the other sort of producers who were like Darren Lighty, Eddie F, KG, because around that time when you guys were hitting, you had KG doing stuff with Coffee Brown Next and Janae,
yeah.
and you had Darren Lighty as well, and Eddie F and Untouchables with Darnell. Did you was a competition among you guys as producers, or were you guys all rooting for each other?
Oh man, you know what? It was all love, man. Like it was maybe friendly competition. Like when you see Timberland or like Rodney get a number one record, you'd be like, you know what? I want to get the next one. You thought
Okay.
that, but you didn't really because man, number one, you know how hard it is to get a number one
Mm,
record, man. It ain't just you. It's
yeah.
like, man, it's like about like 200 people working behind the scenes, man.
Mm,
So as a producer, you know how hard it is to get a number one record, man.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It ain't just you.
Mm.
Cause there's a whole bunch of whack records that went number one. Let's keep it real.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
you can you can name about five ones. You'd be like, how did they go number one,
Yeah,
man?
well, once they played 100 times, you just like, I hate the song, I hate the song. Okay, it's not too a bad song. Yeah, so I know that it was
Yeah, it's a lot of songs, man. You like,
yeah,
man, how did that go number one?
yeah,
How?
Yeah,
That
but
ain't even got the juice on it, man. How did that go number one, man? But
yeah, but they
you know
kept
what,
yeah.
man? You know what? I love all, man. KG, man, he was a real good friend, man. Still is. All them dudes you name, man, they all our boys, man. So we all learn from each man, because we didn't reinvent the wheel, man. We stole from somebody, man. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You just had to just cover it up some kind of way, man. But you know
Yeah.
what I mean? We all
Yeah.
stole from somebody. I don't care what you say, man. We stole from Babyface. We stole from Jam Lewis, Quincy, Gamble and Huff. Gamble and Huff did so much stuff. It's unbelievable, man.
Yeah, yeah.
OJ's, man, themselves.
Mm.
What was that group they had? MSFB or whatever. What was that? Um, I
Yeah.
don't know, but they did so much. They did so. They had the Jackson Fives at one
Yeah,
time.
I think the Temps as well. Yeah, so they did so much. I guess the other thing is one guy, Showshock and Colin, um, as white producers, did you guys feel that, because I interviewed Showshock, lovely guy, and he was steeped in hip hop from when he was a kid, being a DJ. But as producers, was there any, looking out and seeing these white guys producing R&B, did you feel as if, you know, was there any animosity or anything as back in
Not at,
those?
not at all. Matter of fact, man, they remixed They Don't Know.
Yes, Soul Power remix. Okay.
Remember that? They
Yeah.
remixed They Don't Know, man. I mean, you know what, man? Music ain't got no color, man. I mean, I don't care, man. Where you from, man? If it's good, it's good.
Yeah.
If Mickey Mouse produced it, man, if he produced a good record,
Yeah.
you got to give it up,
Yeah.
because you will want somebody to do the same for you. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? You don't want nobody hating on your record, man. If it's a good record, I'm like, for some reason, man, like, yeah, it's okay, and they know that it's good. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But they hating on it though. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like you don't want anybody like that. So I'm like, man, it ain't got no music. That's what's beautiful about music, man. It's like it's about the record. It ain't really about like who did it. It's
Mm.
about the record and how it make you feel, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Music make you feel a certain way, man. If you really think about it, music marks time, man. You can remember, man, like when Love's Holiday came on, you can remember where you was at.
Mm.
You could be like, dang, I was at the fair with my girl, man, and when I first heard that record.
Yeah.
Or when you hear a record that you really, really like, you be like, you be telling your friends, like, hey man, I was doing this when I first heard that, man. I
Yeah.
was doing
Yeah.
that. I was on the highway doing this and it came on and I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. When I
It's
hit
like,
Rhythm of the Night, I remember being back in boarding school. And it just, if I hear it right now, it just takes me back to 1983, being in boarding school and just, yeah, being upset about being that I had to live in school.
but
But it is true.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
but you know, man, that's how music is, man. That's what's
yeah,
so beautiful about it, man. It's like it marks time and
yeah,
space for us, man. And if it make you feel good, you ain't thinking about what color they are, man.
yeah. No, it's true. And I think, but John, when I interviewed Jon B like just last week, he said when he started off, people were making, did have, they were making, he had some snide comments within the industry. But it took a while for other people to recognize him, like Tupac and stuff, that actually people then said, okay, we're going to give him some respect because he's not just kind of come in and like a George Michael and stuff. But I think most of us as fans, we appreciate him. We appreciate Tina Marie.
Which,
You
by the
know,
way, man, you just said a mouthful. George Michael was
mm,
crazy. Think
yeah,
about some of the records he was doing, man.
yeah, yeah,
Um, what was that one? I'm never gonna dance again.
yeah,
Guilty
yeah.
feeling.
Careless Whispers. He did. Yeah,
Man,
yeah, yeah.
we did that over on Tamia, man.
Ah,
Go look for it, man. Go look on the internet, man. You on YouTube, you'll find it. We did that over on Tamia. I love, man, cause man, again, I remember when I was in high school when that came out, I was
mm,
like, who is this, man?
yeah,
Golly. You know what I'm saying? The Tom Tom Club, man. Time won't give me time, all that.
mm, mm,
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
um, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
That's
yeah,
yeah, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying, man. That stuff ain't got no color on it, man. It's
yeah,
just good records, man.
yeah. No, that's it's true. It's true. I mean, people, people don't see the color of Tina Marie, but they just saw the talent. Just an
She was dope.
unbelievable.
She was
Yeah,
dope too, man.
yeah.
Tina Marie, Square Biz, and then Portuguese Love. Remember that?
Yeah,
Man, oh
yeah.
my
She just
goodness.
had so much.
And then Magic too. Remember that? It must be magic because it feels so good to me. Man,
Mm.
she was doing something, man.
And it's good too that we don't, because I think sometimes you can become territorial, but when you can't deny talent, and that's where you
Nah,
just
you
hope
can't.
that you don't deny talent. Well, as we leave, what's your top five Tim and Bob songs? So which would be, would if you had five? Okay, do you want 5 or 10? That would make your top 5 or 10 Tim and Bob productions that you know. And it can't be just because, this was the biggest hit, but the ones that you really were passionate about, even if it didn't hit as hard.
Let me see. They don't know.
Is it
They don't
because it
know.
became a big hit? Or is it there was
It just be
something?
happening to come a big hit, but they don't know, man. When I hear that, I'm like, I wouldn't change nothing about that record. I would, because there's a lot of records that I did that I'd be like, dang, man, why did I put that snare up so high? Why did
Okay.
it kick like that? How come I didn't lower the backgrounds, man, when I mixed it, man? Like, how come? You know what I mean? It's a lot of
Okay.
stuff that I wish I would have did over, you know what I mean? But they don't know. I wouldn't change a thing about that one. Missing you, I wouldn't change a thing. So into you. Um, let me see, let me think. Uh it's a group that we did called Jersey Ave. You remember, have you ever heard of them?
No.
Hey man, look them up. Jersey Avenue, man. Them
Jersey
boys
Avenue.
was
Okay.
hey, them boys was so dope, man. It's a record called I'll Be Right There we did. We had just did we had just did well no, I take that back. We didn't just do it, but it just went number one. They don't know it. So when they came in, as soon as they came in the studio, they was like, hey man, give us a record the same tempo as They Don't Know. So me and Bob was like, all right, man, let's think of They Don't Know. Let's just put it in a different key. You know what I mean? But we did a song called I'll Be Right There. Remember that, man. Go look it up on
Okay.
YouTube. That's a
Okay.
dope record, man. Then I was just listening to what I did on me and Bob did on Ron Isley, man. I Want That. That's another one.
Okay.
Um and then let me see what and then Earth, Wind and Fire too. The Love the Way You Hold Me. Yeah, that's the name of it.
Okay.
That's another one. Um, man, we did a lot of stuff that I Gotta Have It from this group called Illusions. Look
Hmm.
that up. It's a girl group called Illusions, man.
Okay.
And then it's a lot of stuff that we did that didn't come out, man. I'm like, golly.
So nothing
Man,
from
you know
Boys to
what?
Men.
We probably did more stuff that didn't come out that came out.
Wow. But do you still own those tracks that you can
Yep, I got them. Yep, I got all
okay.
of them, man. I got
Okay.
all the stuff. I mean, if I press play on Bob, he'll be like, "Man, I remember that, man. Man, I got a whole album on 112. I got an album on Mary J. Tamia. I got a whole album on Tamia
Wow.
right now. That if I put out, everybody be like, "Is this a brand new album from Tamia?"
Wow.
Because we did so many records with her that didn't make it, man.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So I just kept them. You know what I
Wow.
mean? Let me see. Usher the same way. We did a lot of records on him that didn't make it.
Wow.
One I said 112 already. Let
Yeah,
me see
but
what
wow, I didn't really, yeah. Because
Beyonce. There's so many records we did on them. It don't make no sense, man.
wow. That you still
Gang
have.
of them. Who else, man? Let me see.
So what about Boys to Men? You don't no good tracks from them that you
Boys to Men. I got about three. Man, we got about three albums on them, man.
3 albums
At least three. No lie.
that they recorded.
We because when we that's you remember I told you, man, it took a long time to do Bobby.
Yeah,
It took even longer to do 112. I mean, Boys
Boys
and
to
Men.
Men.
The reason why it took so long is because on the first album, Nate wrote a lot of them, most of them, right?
Yeah.
So on the second album, everybody was trying to jock for position to get their records on there. So we was producing all the records. So Sean would come to us, man, and be like, "Hey, man, I got this idea, man." And he'd be like, "Hey, meet me at the studio, man." I'm like, "Is the guys gonna be there?" He'd be like, "No, I got it by myself." That's how 50 Candles came up. 50 Candles, no, I took, yeah, 50 Candles, no, is that 50 Candles? No, that was Wanye. Let me see. What was after that? But Sean came up with one. I think it is 50 Candles.
Yeah,
I think Sean came up with that, man.
Okay, I'll quickly
But
check.
we
Yeah.
recorded Sean by I got one with Sean by itself. Man, I got about a good, no lie, I got 30 records on those guys, man. They finna come out with a matter of fact, they finna come out with a documentary, and they're gonna be playing a lot of the records that didn't make it. And most of them was ours. Most of them they're gonna be playing, they're gonna be ours, man. I've been talking to a guy up at Universal. They're trying to put it together, but they're trying to get everybody's signature, man. And then he was like, he was telling me, he was like, "Hey, man, you want to redo some of them?" I'm like, "Some of them I can't redo, man. They need to come out as is." I said, "I'll put another beat or something on it, man." But man, them records too special, man.
Yeah, I
You know
think
what I
yeah,
mean?
it will be too hard to yeah, 50 Candles was Sean with you guys.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
50
Yeah,
Candles.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
can remember, man. It was so bad. Hey,
Yeah.
man, you know what? We did this one song, man, called "Keep Me in Mind" that Sean came up with. I'm telling you, man. You hear this song, you'll be crying for no reason, man. That a song called that. Keep Me in Mind. Song called Chair. Song called the first one that I did, man, that me and Wanye did together, called Trying to Let You Go. Do you know that's where On Bend the Knee came from? It
Wait,
came from
man.
that first song. It came
Uh,
from the first song that me and Wanye did. Because we was working on Another Bad Creation.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Bob went to so they sent Wanye. That's how we met Boyz II Men. So they sent Wanye down on Gerald Busby there, right, to do the backgrounds for him. So he was in the other room, and I stopped playing the piano, just messing around. So he just came in another room where I was at, right? So he was like, "What's that?" I'm like, just something I'm messing with, man. He's like, "Man," he said, "Man, let's write that real quick, man." So we wrote it, man. I could show you, man. I'll send it to you if you want me to.
Yeah, please
Give me your
do.
email. I'll send it to you.
I think I sent you an email when you replied with your
It's
yeah.
mixed and everything, man. It's nothing but piano, man.
Wow.
And but I'm telling you, that's where the record came from, man. Because they even
Wow.
told us, they was like, "Hey, man, Jam and Lewis listened to a lot of y'all stuff, man." That's how they came up with
On
On Bend the
bended
Knee.
knee.
I'm like, "For real?
Oh,
How did Jam and Lewis?" I'm like,
wow.
"We learned from them, man." The
Yeah.
pupil Now the pupil telling the teacher, like, "What's
Yeah,
up with
yeah.
that?"
That definitely happens. Wow. I didn't really yeah. Yeah, okay. I mean I did I sent my email so at least it'd be
Send your
great to
email, man. Send
yeah.
your send your email. I'll send you a lot of records, man.
Yeah, please do.
I got
Yeah.
a gang, man. I got so many records. Look, I got half of an album. Maybe no, I'll take that back. Maybe an album on Mary J. Blige. I got an album on Tamia. We got an album on 112, and I got about 3 albums, like I said, on Boyz II Men. I got an album on 112. I got an album on Ron Isley. I got a whole album, man. At least about man 30 joints that never came out, man.
Wow.
Because you know what? I think Bob touched on it. Is that every time we worked on if we worked on one record, we made sure we did like three,
Oh, just in case. Oh,
just
okay.
in case. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we made it hard on the labels, man. They was like, that. I'm like, okay, we got two more. You know what I mean? Just in case they do another album and they
Yeah.
ain't got enough time, and they said they need a record. I'm like, hey, remember them other two that we did, man? Y'all sleeping on them. So we got
Yeah.
two other records, man. So we did that with everybody, man.
Oh,
If
that
we
makes
did
sense.
one, we did three. We did two, we did four. We did three, we did seven. You know what I mean?
Wow.
On and on. So
Wow.
yeah, that's why I got
Okay.
so many
No,
songs, man.
I'll
Send me your
say,
email.
yeah.
Send me your email,
I've
man. I'll
just
send
done
you
that.
some.
Yeah. Yeah. I think finally though, because Bob talked about Athena's album. Was it upsetting
Oh
for you?
man. What was you gonna say, man? I
Yeah,
hate
because he was
you see what
talking
I'm
about
saying?
how, yeah,
That didn't get the like. Hey man, I'm telling you, man, we had Janet Jackson down to a science on that album, man.
that's what people
We
were
finally
saying.
figured out
Yeah.
what Jam Lewis was doing with that harmony, man. Watch, you go to hear it, you're gonna be like, dang, that sounds just like Jam. Man, I'm telling you, we finally got the formula down pat, man. Where they put their harmonies at. Because what they
Mm.
used to do is like the harmony at the top, they would put it at the bottom. The one in the middle, they would put it at the top. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So we wasn't doing that at first, man. But that's how we figured out how they would have that harmony sounding like that. They like mix it all up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'd be like having the one in the middle. They put the middle one be at the top. You know what I mean? The one that was at the top be in the middle. The one in
Mm.
the middle be at the bottom. So it's like they start tell they told us a little bit, but it was like we still wasn't getting it, man. We was like, dang, how they do that, man? And then we finally got it right on Athena's album. Athena's album is Janet down to a science.
That's what
People
everyone
gonna think
says.
that Jam and
Yeah.
Lewis did it, man,
Yeah, that's what it was saying. That she sounds like Janet. She sounds like Janet. Yeah.
because she got a real light sounding voice.
Mm.
But man, I'm telling you, man, she was one of the bad in the booth. I would have to say she's one of the baddest we ever worked with, hands
Wow.
down.
But what do
Hands
you
down,
think
I gotta give.
happened then? What do you think? Because how could she just? Because
You know what it was, man? Is she had a lot of people in her ear, man. That's what it
mm,
was. So her manager came to the studio. Her manager told her some stuff. I could tell it wouldn't even sound like it was coming from her. It was her
mm,
manager. Cause she came to the studio one day out of nowhere, man. I was like, we start singing her the record, and we was like, hey, go in the booth, we got something for you. And then she was like, you know what? I didn't write enough on the album, man. I'm like, the album's not done yet. We right in the middle. What are you talking about? I didn't write enough. I didn't write enough. I didn't da 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 da. She was saying all this stuff, man. And I was like, that's not you, man. You came to us and you said you wanted us to do your album. You came to us because we was Tim and Bob, we were self-contained. That's why you wanted us. We was gonna be like a team like Jam and Lewis. And if you want to write, we ain't tripping. If you write something better than me, at the end of the day, man, this is what LA told me, man, and I never forgot it. He was like, at the end of the day, it's about a hit record.
mm.
So you know what? Put your eagle on the door when you come in the studio, man, because it's all about a hit record, man. That's what you're trying to achieve at the end of the day. You ain't trying to say, "Oh, I wrote this." You know what I mean? You're trying to get it. They ain't nobody gonna care if you wrote it and it didn't do nothing. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? They gonna care if it did something. So if it did something, I don't care if I wrote whatever I wrote. That's why me and Bob, we will always switch it up. Mostly I would come up with the hooks and he would come up with the verse melodies. But a lot of times we used to change it up because I wanted to get his perspective on like what the hook would sound like. And he would get this perspective on like what the verse would sound like
Mm.
from coming from me. You know what I mean? So we
Mm.
always switched it up, man. We didn't care who did what, man. As long as it was a hit record. You know what I mean? And you know, it was sometimes, man, he would write both of the verses and I came up with the hook. I didn't care. If he had a dope verse, I'd be like, write the second verse, man. Because at the end of the day, it's about a hit. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's about not saying that you want to not saying that, oh, I wrote this and I want to have the credit. You know what I mean?
Mm.
What if I don't do anything? Then what you gonna say?
Yeah, like the
what you
ones that
gonna
didn't
say
go
when it
out. Yeah.
what you gonna say when it go plastic, man? What you gonna say then?
Yeah. Wow.
You ain't gonna say that. You ain't gonna take no credit then. You know what I'm saying?
So
People
you
gonna
think
be
it was
like,
the
"Hey man,
manager?
you
So,
wrote both of them verses, right?" You gonna be like, "No,
so you
I
think
didn't
it's
write that.
a
I
so you
didn't come up with
think
that."
so you think it's a
You know what
manager
I
that
mean?
just you think she just came from nowhere and just flipped. It wasn't like her who you knew all the time.
Hold on, say it again.
Yeah, with Athena, you just think that somebody told her about, look, you need to get more publishing, and she just came in with an
She just
agenda.
flipped out. She just flipped out for no reason, man. And we still was trying to calm her down, man, but she was just going so crazy, man. We was like, what's going on with her, man? We was trying to talk her down her legs, man. I was like, Athena, we not done with the album, man. I mean, okay, the next record you can write on it. We ain't tripping. We just want to hit records, man. And me and Bob back then, we was making a track so we know where we wanted to bounce at, and we knew where we wanted to, the hits to be. And we knew how we wanted the hook to be like rhythmic and all that stuff. So we knew where all the stuff needed to be at. So we just wrote it real fast. We wrote it so fast that once the artist looked up, it was already written.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But we wasn't trying to do that on purpose. It was just that we just had this chemistry, man, that like I didn't even have to say nothing to Bob, man. When he heard the track, he already knew what I was thinking, and he already knew what I already knew what he was thinking already. Once he heard the hook, he already knew. Once I heard the verse melody, I already knew where I need to go. I didn't even have to even talk to him. People used to be in the studio and be like, how come y'all ain't even talking to each other, man? I'm like, it's just a thing that we had, man. It was just one of them things, man. We didn't even have to talk to each other, man. I ain't had to say one word to him until the end of it. At the end, we was like, dang, this dope, man. What were you thinking about, man? We saying that afterwards, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we never had to talk, man, because that's how close we were.
Yeah.
We was like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Our brains was just thinking alike back then, man.
Wow. Wow. I mean, it's a pity because, after the experience with Cut Close, you would assume that she'd be a little bit more, okay, this industry, anything can happen. Let's just at least try and get stuff out. And do you think Capital dropped her because you guys weren't involved anymore?
You know what? I think because what happened is it was our deal, right? So they gave us the money. So they dropped it because in order for her to come back out, obviously they had to do another album. They gave us the whole budget. You know what I mean? So they would have to go find another budget of like what, I don't know, back then it was like 500 to 600 to make an album.
Wow.
Because fees was like 30,000 track. And if you was a big hit producer, man, you was making like 70, 80,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if they want to get like big producers, they would have to pay some money. And that was too much money. That was too much. So they just let her go. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, I'd let you go. Because if we did another album, man, that'd be like more than what we gave me, Tim and Bob. That's too much money.
So they couldn't even take the tracks that you did and then add on top of that.
Nope, they didn't do it. We didn't give them, you know what? We didn't give them the tracks either. We didn't give them the tracks, man. So she was on, I don't know if you know, she was on Save the Last Dance. So she had a single on there. And then I think Rodney did a single that didn't do too much. They dropped it right after that.
Wow.
But man, we got an album on her, man. Whew.
But I thought, is there one on the internet, or is that something different than what you guys? Because I thought we heard some of the tracks on the internet.
But not all of them. No.
Oh.
There's a lot that's on there. You know what? It's just like Tank. We got an album on Tank, a whole album, man.
What?
We got a whole album on Tank, man. Give me your email, man. I'll send you the stuff. I'm telling you, man. We did an album on Tank. Tank went so crazy on his album, man. He doing stuff, man. I'm just like, you know what? I sampled a lot of stuff. I remember sampling a Sade sample, man. It was called One Night in Mexico.
Okay.
It's so dope, man. And then I remember sampling Munchies for Your Love from Bootsy. I sampled that, and he did a joint off that, man. He sound crazy. He in his false the whole time he was in his false, man.
Oh, when did they come out?
Because that's when Blackground, when they folded up, when Blackground
Oh
folded up,
yeah, because he
he
was with
left.
a yeah. Oh, so this was
So when he
bef
so so when he
okay.
left, he was like, "Hey man, I want to get my." I remember him saying this, man. He was like, "I ain't gonna lie, man. I want to get my own producer rocks off, man. My fault, man." He's
Oh
like, he said, "Man, He said, "Man, I promised though one day we got to put that album out." I'm like, "We got to, even if it's on something, man. We got to put it out, man. People got to hear this stuff, man."
wow. Oh
We did a
goodness.
great man. We did a crazy album together, man. I'll send it
Wow.
to you.
Okay, I've just sent
I'll
you.
send it to you.
I've
And
just
then
sent.
I'll send you all the other stuff I was talking about too. I
Yeah,
just gotta let me polish them all up, make
yeah,
sure they
yeah,
sound real good. Cause you're gonna
yeah.
be listening to these, man. You're gonna be like, how come this didn't come out?
Yeah, no, definitely,
How come
definitely.
this didn't come out? Huh? You're gonna be doing that the whole time.
No,
You
definitely, definitely.
know
Well,
what I mean?
goodness.
But it's
Well,
a story behind all of them. The reason why it wasn't that they wasn't that good. It was just like the powers that be that
mm,
was behind it. Something happened. Either the label got dropped or like somebody got dropped or some. It was always something. It was always something, man.
man, and
You know
that's
what I
a
mean?
disappointment. Yeah, especially when good music. But the hope is always that you guys can release these things, or the artist go back and says, "Hey, let me re-release some of these things
Right.
because they're
Because some
timeless
of them,
music."
because a lot of it is timeless, man. Like I was making beats that was like real futuristic, man. So they ain't like they out of like when you hear it, it sound like you'll be like, hey man, that sound like something that came from the 80s. You ain't gonna say that when watch when I send you the whole album. You're gonna be like,
Okay, okay,
hey man,
okay.
that sound like that should have came out, man, either now or 10 years from now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Wow.
that's what we was thinking about. We was
Wow.
thinking about, you know what, in 2020, what should some of these sound like?
Mm,
2030, what should this sound like?
wow.
You know what I mean? That's what we was thinking about way down the line,
My
man.
goodness. Oh,
And these
goodness.
records, man, I don't know. We was just thinking about how Jam and Lewis was doing Janet. Like if
Yeah.
you think of like Empty, remember that
Mm,
song Empty from Janet?
yeah.
And feel your face. And like, if you think about that track, man, that track sound like it should come out, man, 2030, man. They was
Mm,
way ahead of their
yeah.
time on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That do
Yeah.
not sound like something that came out. It do not sound like it, like you know what I mean. What was
Yeah.
that album? In the 90. I
Oh,
think it was like
goodness.
nine because it was after Boyz II Men because I remember man Wanye calling us up. We was going crazy. So it's like 97 or something like that.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, man, a lot of these records was futuristic, man. That's the way love goes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean that it's yeah it's and then I guess that's why the hope is always that I get upset when artists today instead of revisiting some of the old stuff or re-releasing some of the old stuff they think they're always thinking about new stuff, and I'm like, but
Yeah,
why don't you go back to the timeless stuff that you didn't release and really and and push us on that? So
because
yeah,
you know why they be thinking, man, new is better. So,
but it's not.
and sometimes that ain't the case,
No,
man.
it's not the
Like
case.
sometimes, man, sometimes you got you caught lightning in a bottle, man. Sometimes, man, you got to
Yeah.
go ahead and gotta get that out.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I
No,
mean?
no,
Because some of them
definitely.
records that we was doing, man, we'll do it, and then we'll leave. We, you know what? I got this from Quincy when Quincy used to tell us. He said, "Man, you know what? I used to do a record, and I used to get 3/4 of it done, and I leave the rest of it for God to walk in the room and touch it and do His magic.
Wow.
So whoever come with the rest, that was from God. You know what I mean? Like God
Mm,
came in and touched the record.
wow.
Why would you mess with that? You don't need to mess with them.
Mm,
You'll know when you hear it, man. You like, okay, this is one of them ones right here. You can't touch this, man. You can't mess
yeah,
with it.
yeah.
You gotta leave it alone. You
Goodness.
know what I mean? God,
Wow.
God was in the room, man. It's like
Yeah, because it
y'all
is, yeah. Because
leave it alone, man.
I remember talking to Melvin Riley Jr. from Ready for the World, and when he was reading, I asked him about when he wrote um, I can't remember the song. So it's not Oh Sheila, it was the soft one. That
Love you
twist,
down.
Love You
Let me
Down.
love you down.
Yeah, Love You Down. And I said, how did you come up with it? He said he was just at his piano and the whole words just came down and he just played. It just came, and even Timmy Gatlin, when he was writing a lot of the tracks for Guy, he said the words were just flowing. So it was a
You can
gift.
call me crazy. You
Yeah,
can call me crazy was
you can call me
dope,
crazy,
man.
piece of my love, goodbye love. He's
Yeah,
yeah.
man.
Even Groovy, he says he would just sit down or just clap. I like. He says the words were just flowing through, and so you realize that actually as songwriters, sometimes you get a melody that comes down, and then the lyrics just flow through. So it's almost like you're gifting,
Right,
which is
right.
just
You
yeah,
almost it's almost you know what? It's almost like an out of body experience, man. Because it's like when you hear the record back, you was like, sometimes I even be like that. I'm like, when I hear some of me and Bob records or something that I did, I'm like, was I there?
wow,
Golly, man.
yeah,
How did I wasn't even thinking about that, man. And that came
mm,
out like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, God, wow, okay.
yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
wow.
That's how it
Yeah.
works sometimes.
Okay. Well,
That's
it
how it
is,
works.
yes. Well, when you're ready to make the announcement about your label, we're going to come back and we'll go live so that at least people can chime in and start it. So I'll do a live because this was pre-recorded, but we're going to go live. So whenever you're ready to say, okay, yep, you're ready for the announcement stuff, we're going to schedule a live interview so people can ask questions and stuff like that.
I love
But
that, man.
yeah,
Because I love what you're doing, man. You know, man, you keeping up. You know what? You know, you got soul, which is my
yeah,
boys,
yeah. I
man.
know you
Me and
guys are.
you, y'all keeping R&B alive, man. For real, you
Yeah,
guys are really keeping R&B alive, man.
you
If it
know,
wasn't for y'all, if it wasn't for you, and you know you got soul, man. Like y'all just man keeping R&B alive, man. It's like when other people is just going chill, chill, chill. Country music did. It's like, man, what happened to the music that made you you?
yeah,
Where you going?
yeah,
Come back. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Come back, man.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And that's the
I
thing.
don't know.
The platform is to
And
really
and you
to
know what?
celebrate. Yeah,
Somebody might have a different opinion, man. It's like, but you know, everybody got a right to their own opinion, man. And I'm like, man, like, why you leaving what you created? I just don't get that, man. You
yeah,
created this right here, and then now you're gonna just abandon it, man.
yeah,
Why'd you do that? When you know, like, you so big, when you leave, you know what I'm saying? You taking so much with you that like people are unemployed right now, man.
mm,
Why would you do that? I don't get that, man.
yeah. Because
Still
yeah,
so much to do. It's so much to do, man.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
so if
yeah.
she
We can't.
came out with look,
Yeah,
look, let me just say this because I know you say this tape. Let me say this. Let me say this. Beyonce, come back to your brother me, Tim Kelley. If you think you ran out of stuff to say about love and R&B music, come back to me. Let's make a record and let's shock the world. You know what I mean? Because you got SZA, you got all these girls that's taking your place. You know what I mean in the R&B world, and you started it. They all want to be like you. I'm not saying that SZA want to be like her, but I mean, the shoe fits where it, man. She started so much stuff, man. You know what I mean? And then now, you know, and you know, I know what she was thinking about. She probably like, I want to conquer something else. You know what I mean? And then probably came up with a story behind it or something like that. I don't know, man. But it's like, you know, there's a way to do that and come back to where you at, man.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we
You
can't
can
rely
come
on,
back.
yeah, yeah. Bruno Mars did it, and you can't rely on him. But you need others to be able to, he came out with two R&B albums, one from the '80s and one from the late '70s. Both did extremely well, Grammys and everything. But people reconnected with music again.
And he a funky dude too, man.
Yeah, but she could
Bruno
easily do
Mars,
that. Yeah,
he funky, man. Like I would love to work with him, man. Cause you know what? I'm in the funk for it gotta be funky for me, man. It's gotta be real funky, man, for me to be like, Wow. I ain't gonna just be sitting there like this, man, if it ain't got no funk in it, man. It's gotta be funky, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm about that funk. That smelly funk. That's what I'm about.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, it is about almost 4 o'clock here in the UK, so I'm
Oh, it is?
it's
Oh
4.
man, thanks for staying up with me, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for
So
staying up with me, bro. I appreciate it, man.
yeah,
My
don't worry.
newfound friend.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you reaching out and us connecting this way and stuff. And there's still so much more. So as I said, when you're ready for the announcement about the label and stuff, then
Yeah.
we're gonna go and still go live, so people, the fans, could ask questions and stuff like that. So we can save that
Yeah, don't worry
announcement.
about it. Cause I'm gonna need your help anyway, man. So I'm gonna tell you, man. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
I'm gonna need
yes.
your help.
Yeah, so whenever you're ready with that, we can schedule that, and yeah, and I look forward to hearing that. And if I think, if possible, if you're able to put a good word for Sean Stockman, it'd be great to be able to get him on the show, from Boyz II Men, Sean.
Oh, that's my boy, man.
Yeah, I mean, if you could put in a word for me, because I'm also a therapist, so that's my full-time job. I work as a children's mental health therapist, and I
Yeah, I
know he
heard
has
about
this.
that, man. I heard
Yeah,
about that. That's good work right there, what you're doing, man.
yes, and
That's
I know
really
he
that's
has a
God's
son.
work right there, man.
Yeah, and I loved it. I know he has a son who's has autism, so it'd be great to be able to talk to him about that as well. So if you do get a chance to chat to him, to see if he won't mind coming on and stuff, that would be definitely great.
Okay. I'll make sure I tell him, man.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I just
Yeah.
talked to him the other day, man. So I'll holler at him and let him know, man. Like
Okay.
we still really, really close to Boyz II Men, man. So I can easily tell him that.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yes. But anyway, but yeah, let me know when you're ready for that announcement, and then
I will.
we'll schedule to go live and be able to promote that as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Thanks a lot, man.
I've got
Hey, thanks for having me too, man. It's a pleasure, man. All right.
no,
I
appreciate
told
it.
you. Hey, didn't I tell you this was gonna be one of your favorite ones right here?
Yeah. It's
Because
one of
I
my
got so
longest
many.
ones
You
as
know
well
what?
too.
You know what? I can't wait till I come back because I got so many stories, man. I ain't even, man. You know what? I ain't even told half of what happened with me and Bob, man. And then I got stuff for stories by myself too. I still ain't even got to half of it, man.
Well,
So
as I
that's why you
said,
got to hit me back.
yeah, no. So as I said, when you're ready for if you said in 2 weeks' time, okay, we're about to make the announcement, we've got everything set it up, we'll pick it, we'll just go, yeah. So that's not one of those long-term stuff. Yeah. When you're ready with that one, it would be on the back of that. We'll be able to do it.
Okay,
So if
cool,
it's 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, no problem. We'll go live with that. And I
man.
think going live, yeah.
I
Because
sure appreciate you with that, man.
hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of Halftime Chat. Please remember to subscribe, share, and comment. But most importantly, why don't you become a member of Halftime Chat? We've got amazing videos, amazing perks, and being able to support the channel. But anyway, thanks for watching. Take care.
I never participated in that category.
And somewhere in between
us for even loving us, on which I didn't miss you with.
What was it like growing up?
she's still making an impact on 4 houses down.
I have a couple of pieces.
Trying to get this one and that one.
That works for you, but just for me,
No. Okay.
They understand what those boys and men all
Play it.
I mean, I love all different genres.